Chapter 101, Poaching in Person. A cold and bone-chilling divine thought pierced into Bibi Dong's sea of consciousness without warning. A hoarse, insane, and distinctive voice echoed in Bibi Dong's ears once again. It was the Rakshasa god. This level -1 divinity, who had been silent for a long time and had only just regained freedom, did not ask about the progress of Bibi Dong's god's trial upon finding her chosen successor for the Rakshasa god trial. Instead, she impatiently asked, "Where is Fang Yuan? Where is Fang Yuan?" Bibi Dong's expression darkened instantly, and a layer of frost covered her eyes. She naturally knew that the Rakshasa god had designs on Fang Yuan, but the Rakshasa god's unmasked attitude still made a strong sense of resistance and anger rise within Bibi Dong. "Enough," she interrupted coldly, her tone carrying suppressed impatience. "Fang Yuan is not with me right now. As for you, why did you suddenly disappear for so long without a trace?" But the Rakshasa god completely ignored the second half of Bibi Dong's sentence, as if her ears had only caught one thing: Fang Yuan was not with Bibi Dong. The next moment, even more acerbic and disdainful curses exploded directly in Bibi Dong's mind. "Trash. You can't even keep an eye on one person, you are nothing but trash." There was no hesitation whatsoever. After cursing, the Rakshasa god couldn't be bothered to care about Bibi Dong's expression. The next instant, in the god realm, the Rakshasa god's true form exerted its power, searching Douluo Continent over and over again. Fang Yuan's usual concealment and disguises were enough for him to walk through the world without a sound in the eyes of mortals and most spirit masters. But in front of the level -1 divinity, the Rakshasa god, he was completely exposed. In just a fleeting moment, the Rakshasa god accurately locked onto that figure just stepping into the outer perimeter of the Star-Do Great Forest. She could no longer be bothered with Bibi Dong, her god's trial candidate, instantly cutting off the divine thought connection with her, and descended beside Fang Yuan, wrapped in cold and resentful divine force. "Fang Yuan." A resentful, hoarse voice sounded in Fang Yuan's ear. Fang Yuan's vision was blocked by a purple-black mist. An energy body composed of divine force appeared before him, and the Rakshasa god's divine thought controlled this body to manifest. Fang Yuan immediately used the sea god's light. The sea god's light did indeed have a restraining effect on evil attributed creatures, but the Rakshasa god was a divinity, and she was using divine force, which was far beyond what Fang Yuan, a mortal, could harm. "These are useless against me, but you actually obtained the sea god's trial." The Rakshasa god's voice was eerie and lingering, wrapped in a bit of dissatisfaction and resentment, as if she were softly complaining, "Why seek the sea god's trial? My Rakshasa divinity is equally suitable for you." Her words completely cast aside Bibi Dong, her current god's trial candidate. Fang Yuan pursed his lips in silence, but his heart was already pounding. He was truly a bit fearful of this insane divinity. After all, in the simulations, he had been killed by her. Bibi Dong at least acted out of love turned to hate, possessing a certain logic. And even more troublesome was that this Rakshasa god's actions were unfathomable. In the first simulation, she ignored her status as a divinity and suddenly struck to kill Fang Yuan. In the most recent simulation, the Rakshasa god clearly held the advantage and could have dominated everything about Fang Yuan, yet she chose to observe from the shadows, even bestowing the Rakshasa Martial Soul and the Rakshasa god trial. Fang Yuan was afraid that if he said the wrong thing, this crazy woman would attack him. Fortunately, the sea god, who was always protective of his own, was reliable this time. Before the Rakshasa god could press her attack further, the vast and majestic aura of the sea god suddenly appeared within the Rakshasa divine hall, saving the situation in time. God realm. A vast, ocean-like golden divine might suddenly cross the sky. The sea god was surrounded by 10,000 acres of light waves, his tone carrying undisguised dissatisfaction as he directly confronted the Rakshasa god. "Rakshasa, you are interfering with my god's trial candidate without authorization. What exactly is your purpose?" The sea god had long been satisfied with Fang Yuan's performance during this period. His heart nature, aptitude, and comprehension ability were the best the sea god had ever seen. Now that the Rakshasa god had come knocking to poach him in person, how could the sea god not be angry? Hearing this, the purple-black mist around the Rakshasa god suddenly constricted, and her voice became even colder and more bone-chilling. Purpose. Fang Yuan is someone I set my sights on first. He should have been mine, he is my successor for the Rakshasa god trial. The sea god laughed in anger. You have the nerve to shift the blame. Your god's trial candidate, Bibi Dong, is standing clearly in the lower realm right now. As a level -1 divinity, is one inheritor not enough for you, that you must reach out to snatch the god's trial candidate I have selected? So what? The Rakshasa god was unreasonable but still acted bold and confident. Quote. For a moment, even the sea god was amazed by the Rakshasa god's shamelessness. The two divinities locked eyes. The next moment, there was no need for further words. The golden light on the trident in the sea god's hand surged, and the evil chi on the side in the Rakshasa god's palm reached the heavens. The two level -1 divinities started fighting on the spot. Golden divine light and purple mist collided with a boom, tearing through the clouds of the god realm. The commotion was so great that it instantly attracted several divinities to stop and watch. Like the sea god, the goddess of life, who had been observing Fang Yuan from the shadows, watched the entire process. From her perspective, the Rakshasa god was just someone who suddenly popped up to poach, but she didn't feel anything was wrong, because the Rakshasa god was naturally that kind of divinity. And in the lower realm, as the true forms began fighting in the god realm, the Rakshasa god had to withdraw the divine thought beside Fang Yuan. That figure shrouded in purple-black mist vanished without a trace in the blink of an eye. Fang Yuan let out a long sigh of relief, his back already soaked with cold sweat. The suffocating feeling of being stared at fixedly by something finally dissipated. Even Xiao Wu, who was attached deep within his spirit ring and had been trembling, violently broke free from that extreme fear and oppression, still shaken. And what Fang Yuan did not know was that before the Rakshasa god started fighting the sea god, she had told Bibi Dong the location of Fang Yuan. Spirit City, deep within the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Bibi Dong stood alone in the center of the Great Hall, the aura radiating from her body cold and majestic, pressing down so heavily that the entire hall seemed to freeze. She raised her eyes to look into the void realm, and after seeing the divine thought mark belonging to the Rakshasa god clearly, her pupils shrank violently. The next moment, the content of the Rakshasa god trial was silently rewritten before her eyes. Open black lens bracket Rakshasa god trial content changed. Capture the sea god's trial candidate, Fang Yuan. Target's current location, Star Do Great Forest. Current spirit power rank, 86. Spirit, Bright Phoenix Martial Soul, Dark Blue Silver Emperor close black lens bracket. Bibi Dong was stunned for a moment, and then, an irrepressible smile slowly spread from the corners of her lips, expanding wider and wider, eventually turning into a chuckle filled with madness and the determination to win. The laughter was not loud, but it echoed in the empty Supreme Pontiff Palace. Her deep, bewitching purple eyes instantly brightened terrifyingly, like a hunter in the dark night who had set her sights on succulent prey, eerie light flowing within, making no effort to conceal the greed within. So that's where you were hiding. Chapter 102, Fate, brilliant yet short-lived. Bibi Dong naturally knew of the existence of the Sea God and Seagod Island. As the Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall, she was clear on the intelligence regarding this island that had guarded the Sea God legacy for generations. Moreover, in the memories she had long since awakened, that one of a kind saint in her heart, Fang Yuan, had obtained the Sea God's trial through the trials of Seagod Island. But knowing was one thing, actually setting foot on Seagod Island was impossible. Bibi Dong's current identity as the Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall made her a natural enemy of Seagod Island due to past grievances. Furthermore, with High Priestess Bo Saishi, the one known as Invincible on the Seas, guarding Seagod Island for many years, her pressure as a level 99 limit Douluo loomed over the ocean. Even with Bibi Dong's profound cultivation today, she had absolutely no confidence in forcibly breaking into Seagod Island, let alone taking Fang Yuan away on the other party's territory. However, what burned most anxiously in Bibi Dong's heart at this moment was not the obstacle of Seagod Island, but Fang Yuan's terrifying, heart-palpitating cultivation speed. Level 86 Spirit Douluo. Bibi Dong considered her own talent peerless. She had stepped into the Spirit King realm before the age of 20. Looking at the history of the entire Douluo Continent, she could be counted as a top-tier prodigy, enough to look down upon her peers. Yet, when she saw with her own eyes that Fang Yuan, at such an age, had such an incredibly fast cultivation speed, surging directly to a level 86 Spirit Douluo, she could not help but fall silent, despite her usual arrogance. It was too fast. Fast enough to defy common sense, causing Bibi Dong to develop an indescribable sense of crisis. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before Fang Yuan steadily surpassed her, stepping into the realm of titled Douluo, or even higher realms. By then, let alone keeping him, even trying to get one step closer to him would be as difficult as ascending to heaven. Thinking of this, a surge of uncontrollable panic welled up in Bibi Dong's heart. How can I keep the saint? This question circled in her mind over and over, unable to be dispelled. Bibi Dong was clearer than anyone about the grievances between her and Fang Yuan. Regarding those memories where she had personally or indirectly caused Fang Yuan's death, she was self-aware. Whenever she met Fang Yuan's ink-colored eyes, she could clearly touch the killing intent deep within them. Yet, the more this was the case, the less she could let go. Hatred intertwined, having long since, unknowingly, twisted into an obsession deep in her marrow. Bibi Dong was cold to the entire world and ruthless to all enemies, but when facing Fang Yuan, her pride, her toughness, her schemes, all that remained was a single thought. Keep him. A moment later, within the Supreme Pontiff Palace of Spirit Hall, Bibi Dong was already dressed in crisp, casual attire, her aura restrained. She brought only a few absolutely loyal and highly cultivated personal guards. She did not make a big show of it. The group left Spirit City quietly and sped directly toward the Star Do Great Forest. She carried out all these actions with extreme secrecy, deliberately avoiding Qian Xunji. She knew too well how deep her daughter's obsession with Fang Yuan was. If Qian Xunji learned she was heading to the Star Do Great Forest to find Fang Yuan, given her temperament, she would certainly follow regardless of the consequences. That would only add countless variables and might even ruin all her arrangements. The Star Do Great Forest was vast and boundless, with ancient trees reaching the sky. Bibi Dong did not waste a single moment in the outer perimeter. Those 100-year or 1,000-year low-level spirit beasts could not catch her eye, and they certainly could not be Fang Yuan's target. She knew in her heart that Fang Yuan must have come this time to break through to a higher realm, and he would only be hunting top-tier spirit rings with extremely high age limits. Such spirit beasts only existed in the core area deep within the Star Do Great Forest. Speeding all the way, she bypassed the outer perimeter and stepped into the most dangerous zone of the entire forest. But after truly stepping into the core area, even with Bibi Dong's strength, she had to slow her speed, her expression becoming several degrees more cautious. This was not a place where humans could run rampant as they pleased. Just like how human spirit masters would form teams to venture deep inside to hunt spirit rings, high-level spirit beasts that had lived for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years had long since awakened their intelligence, possessing thinking and pack consciousness not inferior to humans. They occupied their own territories, watching over and helping each other. Once an external enemy intruded, they would join forces to resist. Even if a titled Douluo stepped into this place, they would not dare to be the least bit careless. After being intimidated by the Rakshasa god, Fang Yuan's entire being was tense, and he dared not be the least bit careless. Naturally cautious and suspicious, he immediately abandoned his original plan and found a safe place to hide temporarily. After catching his breath, Fang Yuan's heart was full of doubts. Everything had been peaceful before, so why did the Rakshasa god choose this moment to come knocking? What's even stranger is that the other party had clearly found him, yet suddenly disappeared halfway through the attack. Fang Yuan could not figure it out. Having cultivated comfortably on Seagod Island, he felt a sense of crisis for the first time in a long while. No matter what, the Rakshasa god was a dignified level 1 divinity. If the other party truly set their mind on crossing the barrier between the god realm and the continent to capture him at all costs, with his current cultivation, he would have absolutely no power to resist. Although I am a candidate for the Seagod God's trial, but would the Sea God risk everything to protect me? Fang Yuan was not sure. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan no longer hesitated. With a movement of his mind, he directly activated the golden finger that belonged only to him. The simulator's semi-transparent blue panel lit up. It floated slowly in front of him, with a line of small text appearing with perfect clarity. Open black lens bracket fate points, 44 close black lens bracket. Fang Yuan had already personally experienced just how heaven-defying this thing was. In the last simulation, he had invested 20 fate points into the family background category, directly leaping to become the child of the nine-colored goddess and the food god, born with a divinity bloodline, his talent and luck far exceeding ordinary people. He could even imagine that if he continued to crazily bet on family background, he might be able to directly simulate a starting point as terrifyingly extreme as that of a god king's child. But this time, Fang Yuan shook his head and directly cut off that thought. He did not intend to walk that path again. His aptitude and comprehension ability were insufficient, although the resources were abundant and his family background strong. His final cultivation rank was still stuck at the limit, unable to become a god king. With a light tap of his fingertip on the simulator panel, Fang Yuan reallocated all his fate points. Aptitude +1, comprehension ability +40, family +3. After the allocation was complete, he took a deep breath, suppressed all distracting thoughts in his heart, and his gaze became incredibly firm. Open black lens bracket simulation starts. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket host draws fate, brilliant yet short-lived close black lens bracket. Fang Yuan looked at the fate drawn this time with a headache. Although he didn't know the meaning of this idiom, just seeing the word, death of a prince, death of a high-ranking person, he knew it wasn't a good term. Open black lens bracket you were born into a small spirit master family in the Star Luo Empire, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket your parents are both spirit grandmasters, with innate spirit power of less than rank 3, their talent has already reached its limit, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket you are the youngest child in this family, and you have 5 older brothers and sisters above you, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket as the youngest child, you are relatively favored, and your parents often tease you, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket slowly, they begin to discover your differences. You are very intelligent. Although you children only officially start cultivating after awakening your spirit at age 6, given that the family's conditions are not bad, your parents teach the children to read early, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket you display a terrifying learning ability, photographic memory, and the ability to draw inferences about other cases from one instance, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket however, in the Star Luo Empire, a martial valuing empire, your parents do not care much about your learning and culture, they are more concerned about what spirit you will awaken at the age 6 spirit awakening ceremony, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket due to your excessively high comprehension ability, you do not remain ignorant for long before you remember who you really are, and you also understand that this time, your cultivation talent is very low, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket you often read books alone. Gradually, your brothers and sisters, who like to compete for superiority, stop paying attention to you, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket of course, sometimes they also want to teach you, their unsociable younger brother, a lesson, but they always suffer the consequences themselves, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket you have already figured out the timeline you are currently in. When you were 3 years old, the Spirit Hall Supreme Pontiff Qian Xunji died, and the current Supreme Pontiff is Bibi Dong, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket soon, you are 6 years old, the age for spirit awakening, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket the spirit you awaken is a book, and your innate spirit power is only rank 1. Your parents cannot hide their disappointment in their eyes. Because of your initial intelligence, your parents had high expectations for you, the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket your status in the family begins to change. Your parents start subconsciously ignoring you, placing more attention on your brothers and sisters who have good talent. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You have been abandoned. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You enter a low-level Spirit Master Academy to start cultivating, but what makes the Academy teachers feel strange is that your cultivation speed does not look like what a trash with rank 1 innate spirit power should have. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In less than half a year, your spirit power rank has already reached rank 8, and this cultivation speed is getting faster and faster. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You do not cultivate the common cultivation method of the Douluo Continent issued by the Academy. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You think, why can Tang San's mysterious heaven skill be used to cultivate spirit power? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your photographic memory allows you to remember all the knowledge you have learned from birth until now. The meridians of the human body and the methods of spirit power circulation crisscross in your mind, and inspiration erupts. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You slowly begin to comprehend a faster spirit power cultivation method. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You quietly leave the Academy and arrive at Spirit City. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Spirit Master who brought you to Spirit City runs away impatiently after dropping you off. Even though you are just a rank 10 spirit scholar who hasn't even hunted a spirit ring, his eyes look at you as if you are a monster. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You arrive in front of the huge angel god statue in the Spirit City square. The angel spreads its wings, its expression compassionate and gentle. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You press your palms together, bowing your head in pious prayer. You are repenting in advance for what you are about to do next. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You see Bibi Dong. She looks at you in surprise, not expecting that this time you would actually take the initiative to come find her. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You also can't quite figure out why such a useful tool was left unused by your previous self. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Bibi Dong is a woman, and her actions are very emotional, but her talent is very strong, which is enough to make up for her shortcomings. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Used well, she will be a very useful blade. Close black lens bracket. Chapter 103, contested by 3 divinities. What exactly is so special? In reality, Fang Yuan lightly touched the simulated light screen, shimmering with a faint ghostly glow. His gaze was locked onto his rapidly climbing spirit power rank, and he couldn't help but let out a low exclamation of astonishment. In the simulation, relying on this terrifyingly extreme comprehension ability, he had managed to deduce a set of spirit power cultivation method unique to himself without any guidance. Even with extremely poor innate talent, his cultivation speed far exceeded that of ordinary people. It could no longer be described as just a genius, it was simply heaven-defying. However, Fang Yuan was not very surprised. One had to know that 20 points of family background could make one a child of a god, so what kind of terror would 40 points of comprehension ability be? Just as Fang Yuan was immersed in the shock and emotion over his own comprehension ability in the simulation, the situation suddenly took a turn. In the simulation, after stabilizing his cultivation, he did not choose to lie low or wait, nor was he in a rush to seek opportunity. Instead, he headed towards Spirit Hall, with his target being the Spirit Hall Supreme Pontiff, Bibi Dong. Perhaps projecting his own thoughts onto others, Fang Yuan guessed that his simulated self intended to utilize this Spirit Hall Supreme Pontiff. That was Bibi Dong. Twin spirits, Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall, top-tier combat strength on the continent. To use her. Could this work? But the very next second, the image on the light screen gave him the answer. In the simulation, he only used a few subtle tactics and a few words to easily pry open Bibi Dong's emotional defenses. Bibi Dong willingly paved the way for him, covered for him, and exhausted the power of Spirit Hall for his sake. Fang Yuan stared blankly at the simulation content, a complex smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. It seemed, it really could work. After all, this was a genuine case of being lovesick. Once fallen into it, there was no reason left. Even the high and mighty Supreme Pontiff would become a prisoner in the web of love, being used without even realizing it. Bibi Dong took you to stay in her Supreme Pontiff Palace, granting almost all your requests, and countless resources and materials were delivered to you. This included the immortal herb from Dugu Bo's herb garden, which Bibi Dong personally took from the poison Douluo. Of course, the ice and fire yin-yang well now also belonged to Spirit Hall. You began to research these immortal herb. You began to study herbal knowledge, and Bibi Dong helped you by capturing Yang Wudi of the Breaking Clan to teach you. Yang Wudi initially refused to comply, so you directly used his grandson to test medicine. Watching his grandson twitch, vomit blood, and suffer in agony, Yang Wudi surrendered. Because if it did not teach wholeheartedly or held back, then it would be its clansmen who were testing the medicine who would suffer. With the support of that 40 points of comprehension ability, you quickly researched everything thoroughly and began to use the immortal herb. You combined the immortal herb with some auxiliary medicines, and added your self-created cultivation technique to circulate and absorb them. Your spirit underwent a benign mutation, transforming from a tattered blank book into an immortal herb record, and you gained effects such as fire immunity, water immunity, and Vajra indestructibility. You obtained a spirit ring after your spirit evolved. Due to the accumulation of spirit power from your previous cultivation, as well as the enhancement of spirit power by the immortal herb, your rank rose all the way, rank 11, rank 12, rank 13. Until your spirit power rank reached rank 20, requiring you to hunt for another spirit ring. Compared to the age of the spirit ring, you paid more attention to its attributes and compatibility. Your first spirit ability was a rare mental force enhancement spirit ability, and your second spirit ability was a mental detection type spirit ability. These two spirit abilities further enhanced the effects of your comprehension ability. Your self-created spirit power cultivation method became closer to perfection, and you wanted to create a cultivation technique that would automatically cultivate 24 hours a day. Relying on your own powerful mental force, you split your focus, researching and learning on one hand, while continuously circulating the cultivation technique to cultivate on the other. In this way, you barely achieved 24-hour automatic cultivation, but the requirements for mental force were extremely strict. In fact, you felt there were other shortcuts. For those with other souls in their bodies, it would be no problem at all to split their focus 3 or even 4 ways. Outside the simulation, Fang Yuan slowly withdrew his gaze from the light screen and let his eyes fall gently onto Xiao Wu beside him. To say, beside him, was not actually accurate. At this moment, Xiao Wu's soul had not left his body, but resided deep within his divine soul like a wisp of warm yet fragile light, relying on his vitality and spirit power to exist securely. He could clearly perceive the faint pulse of that soul, like a vine that needed to cling to a large tree to survive. He knew very well in his heart that with his current state of fused souls with Xiao Wu, as long as he was willing to voluntarily release a portion of his body's control, Xiao Wu could use his physical body to channel spirit power, run meridians, and even cultivate and improve like a normal person. Fang Yuan shook his head gently, without the slightest hesitation in his eyes. He would not do that. Compared to using such opportunistic methods to increase speed, he was more wary of the hidden unknown risks. Soul residence and shared physical body were already extremely dangerous. He was never a gambler. Being a little slower didn't matter, being steady was the most important thing. Even if his cultivation speed was slightly inferior, it was better than handing his life, future, and everything else over to someone else. Your existence was not hidden for long. Bibi Dong was too good to you and too high profile. Even Qian Xunji, who was still undercover in the Heaven Do Empire, heard of your existence. Qian Xunji rushed back, and you were taken by Bibi Dong to meet Qian Xunji. Your appearance this time was extremely dazzling. Your white gold long hair was carefully braided by Bibi Dong, your eyes were the scorching color of molten gold like the midday sun, noble and striking. You wore a white brocade robe, with lilies embroidered in silver thread on the lapels and cuffs, and a dark gold twisted silk belt around your waist, embedded in the center with a pigeon blood ruby, shimmering with brilliance. Qian Xunji was first startled by your appearance in this life, then quickly sobered up and asked why you took the initiative to find Bibi Dong. Of course, there was the second half of the sentence, why didn't you come to find her? She was the young lord of the Elders' Hall. In terms of the help she could provide, Qian Xunji was no less than Bibi Dong, and might even be more, since the elders of the Elders' Hall were all super Douluo with spirit power above rank 95. Your eyes reflected Qian Xunji's current appearance, the arrogance and pride in her brows were clearly visible. Bibi Dong was a pure lovesick fool. When she was in love, she always placed herself in a lower position. For example, when she fell in love with Yu Shaogang in the original story, she chose to marry the waste Yu Shaogang of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan as the Holy Maiden of Spirit Hall, rather than making Yu Shaogang a live-in son-in-law. Bibi Dong revered you as the saint, granting almost all your requests without asking for reasons. But Qian Xunji was different. As the young lord of the Qian family, the pinnacle of reincarnation on this continent, Qian Xunji was born high and mighty, with the qualifications to look down on everything. Pride was carved into her bones. Even when Tang San exposed her identity and ruined Qian Xunji's plan to infiltrate the Heaven Do Empire for over a decade, Qian Xunji still did not truly take Tang San seriously, choosing instead to recruit him from a position of superiority. Moreover, the first impression is very important. The relationship between you and Qian Xunji began as slave and master, which was not equal. In this simulation, if you went to find her during your weakest early stage, that would be a challenge to Qian Xunji. You looked at Qian Xunji in front of you, stepped forward, opened your arms, and hugged the blonde girl. Qian Xunji's thoughts went blank for a moment, and she subconsciously hugged you back. She had always been susceptible to soft tactics rather than hard ones. Qian Xunji abandoned her undercover plan and chose to return to Spirit Hall. Under the surprised gaze of Qian Douluo, she began to focus on cultivation. Qian Xunji's innate spirit power was rank 20, a supreme talent, allowing her to break through rank 50 and become a spirit king at 17 years old, even though she had wasted a lot of time on socializing, etiquette, and government affairs while disguised as the first prince of the Heaven Do Empire, Shui Qing. You successfully stabilized Qian Xunji and simultaneously gained the recognition of the Elders' Hall, allowing you to use more and more energy. Most of your energy was focused on development and research, with only a small portion of energy and time used for cultivation. Sometimes, if a spirit master encounters significant changes or blows, there is a certain probability of spirit mutation. You tried to artificially guide this situation to occur. With the support of your super comprehension ability, you succeeded. Your spirit mutated again, changing from an immortal herb record to a knowledge codex. This shocked even Qian Douluo, who was secretly observing you. 2 consecutive spirit mutations, and both were benign mutations. Even Qian Douluo had never heard of such a thing. The defect of rank 1 innate spirit power seemed non-existent on you. Most spirit masters' cultivation speed and final bottleneck were determined at the very beginning when they awakened their spirit and innate spirit power. The most famous example was Yu Shaogang of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan, who had ranked 0.5 innate spirit power. His initial talent was too poor, and even with a titled Douluo father and massive amounts of resources poured into him, he was still stuck at rank 29 and unable to break through. You took time to simplify your spirit power cultivation method to allow most ordinary spirit masters to cultivate it. This cultivation method was first handed to Bibi Dong for experimentation. The effect was very obvious. Bibi Dong's spirit power cultivation speed increased by more than 2 times. After confirming the effect, it began to spread slowly within Spirit Hall. The simulator's light screen gradually faded. There was no spirit power fluctuation around Fang Yuan, but his expression was more solemn than when facing any powerful enemy. In the simulation, he had unreservedly spread his self-deduced, heaven-defying spirit power cultivation method to benefit others. How could this be possible? Fang Yuan knew better than anyone how precious that cultivation technique was. In the simulation, his rank 1 innate spirit power could progress rapidly using this cultivation technique. Yet, in the simulation, he acted like a kind and selfless senior, casually throwing away such a treasure. A cold arc curled at the corner of Fang Yuan's mouth. Others might think it was opportunity, generosity, or a grand heart. But he knew himself too. Well, projecting his own thoughts onto others again. He, Fang Yuan, was never a good guy. With profit ahead, even close relatives could be cut down. With opportunity in hand, he would not yield an inch. Let alone giving away a top-tier cultivation technique for free. Even if it were a fellow sect member, he would weigh it repeatedly and calculate all pros and cons before making a move. Kindness for no reason. It didn't exist. A conspiracy. There must be a conspiracy behind this. Did it plant a hidden trap in the cultivation technique? Was it quietly harvesting luck and devouring spirit power while others were cultivating? Or was it using the spread of the cultivation technique to lay out a grand scheme covering the entire continent, just to harvest everything from all cultivators one day? In the void realm of the God realm, the sea of clouds surged, and divine light stretched for hundreds of millions of feet. The 5 god kings sat upon the thrones formed by law. The great battle between the sea god and the Rakshasa god had finally come to an end under the ruling of the god kings. The sea god already held the moral and legal high ground, and it had the backing of its close brother, the Asura god, which was decisive and never muddled. As for the Rakshasa god, it was an evil god which controlled slaughter, conspiracy, and corruption. It was already notorious in the god realm and had always been feared and alienated by the gods. The cause of this incident was even clearer. It was the Rakshasa god whose heart nature had gone mad, coveting the successor chosen by the sea god, intervening arrogantly, and digging for people, which triggered the conflict. In terms of right and wrong, it was clear at a glance. In terms of reason, the Rakshasa god was purely asking for it. Weighing the situation, the 5 god kings ruling swayed toward the sea god without suspense. The Rakshasa god, which had just been unbanned, was shut back in again. The matter ended, and the gods retreated one after another. Just as the sea god was about to leave with the Asura god, a gentle yet vibrant divine shadow quietly blocked his path. It was the goddess of life. A warm glow flowed around her. She was not as awe-inspiring as the god kings, but she carried a kind of compassion and substance that could smooth over all disputes. After the surrounding divinities had completely moved away, the goddess of life spoke softly, her voice gentle. I wonder, is the sea god willing to part with him? Fang Yuan has now comprehended the law of life and is highly compatible with the origin of my lineage. He is the most suitable candidate to inherit my goddess of life god position. These words sounded reasonable and well-founded, as if they were entirely based on the inheritance of the god realm and the compatibility of law, but anyone could hear the hidden intentions within. While it was said to be choosing a successor for a god position, in reality, it was no different from the Rakshasa god which had just grabbed the person, except one was arrogant and domineering, and the other was gentle and subtle, but the goal was the same. As she spoke, the goddess of life's usually gentle and elegant fair cheeks could not help but flush with a faint red, and even her gaze subconsciously shifted away, not daring to look the sea god in the eye. The sea god's anger, which had just subsided, ignited again in the face of the goddess of life's remarks. His calm and majestic face darkened at a speed visible to the naked eye. The gentleness in his golden divine eyes faded bit by bit, replaced by the coldness of the deep sea and suppressed anger. So, the divinities of this god realm were all eyeing his person. The madwoman Rakshasa god was one thing, but even the goddess of life was following suit to poach his talent. And the Asura god, which had been standing by and watching the show in silence, finally couldn't help but feel a trace of curiosity. A mortal, actually able to attract 3 divinities to compete for it, what exactly was so special? Chapter 104, A Crazy Hypothesis. The goddess of life appeared unusually flustered and embarrassed at this moment, her slender fingertips curling slightly. Since that day she saw Fang Yuan, from the moment he insisted on reviving Xiao Wu at any cost, the goddess of life's view of Fang Yuan had been completely overturned and transformed. The thoughts she had originally suppressed began to stir uncontrollably once again. Finally, today, upon seeing the situation concerning the Rakshasa god, the goddess of life could no longer hold back. She found the sea god and voiced her intention to take Fang Yuan as her successor for her legacy. The sea god's gaze locked tightly onto the goddess of life, his vast divine force faintly surging around him, carrying a hint of anger. If not for the god of destruction standing beside her, shielding the goddess of life, and the fact that the goddess of life had always had a good reputation and was kind to others, the sea god would have truly wanted to make a move. Did they really think he, the sea god, was a soft persimmon that anyone could pinch, or that everyone wanted to come and trample on him? The atmosphere instantly tightened to the extreme, with undercurrents surging, almost ready to erupt at any moment. Just as tensions were at their peak, a cold and majestic voice suddenly rang out, breaking the stalemate. The Asura god swept his blood-colored eyes across the two of them and spoke indifferently. What exactly is so special about this Fang Yuan that he is worth you two fighting over him like this? The sea god's heart tightened, knowing well that this old friend had an arrogant temperament, extremely high standards, and was unconventional. He wouldn't forego a talented individual he favored just for the sake of brotherly affection. Once he set his mind on something, he would inevitably become another formidable opponent. He immediately fell silent, wanting to suppress the matter and not intending to reveal another word. But, unfortunately, even though he didn't speak, there was a useless teammate, with no guile beside him. The goddess of life was pure of heart and completely unguarded. Seeing the Asura god ask, she recounted Fang Yuan's heaven-defying talent and terrifying growth speed in detail, leaving the sea god absolutely no chance to stop her. Dual top-tier spirits, reaching the spirit Douluo realm at 10 years old, and even touching the threshold of the law of life early on. Upon hearing this, the Asura god was silent at first, then frowned slightly, feeling it was utterly absurd, and wondered to himself if the goddess of life was playing a trick on him. How could there be such a heaven-defying person in this world? A 10-year-old spirit Douluo, dual top-tier spirits, and even capable of comprehending the power of law. Was this truly still immortal? He subconsciously recalled his own 10-year-old self, who was merely still in ignorant cultivation. But as a god king, the goddess of life had no need to lie, and besides, Fang Yuan was in the lower realm. One only needed to take a look to verify the truth. With a thought, the vast sea of clouds before the Asura god suddenly rolled and condensed, turning into a clear water mirror that directly reflected the scene in the lower realm. In the image, the black-haired, black-eyed youth was sitting cross-legged in the forest, his spirit power circulating in an orderly manner, his aura steady and profound. With the ability of a god king, even across the endless distance between the god realm and the lower realm, the Asura god could see through Fang Yuan's cultivation foundation, spirit essence, and comprehension of law at a glance. After seeing everything clearly, the Asura god was silent for a moment, a trace of disbelief flashing in his blood-colored eyes, and he whispered, "It's actually true." The next second, an idea appeared in his mind. Want. Such a once-in-10,000 years, truly heaven-defying top-tier genius ought to become his, the Asura god's, legacy successor. The sea god and the Asura god had known each other for many years. With just one exchange of glances, he understood what the other was thinking, and his face immediately darkened as he warned, "This is the god's trial candidate I have already chosen." The Asura god was not afraid in the slightest, his blood-colored eyes meeting the sea god's cold gaze, his tone firm. "So what? The final choice lies in the hands of the child himself." The god of destruction, who had taken in the entire process from the side, felt a headache and helplessly closed his eyes. He turned his head to look at his wife beside him, who had a clueless expression and still did not know what kind of impact her words had just caused. Meeting those clear, pure, and untainted eyes, all his helplessness ultimately turned into a soft sigh. In the end, the god of destruction still took a step forward, his icy aura of destruction slightly dispersing, making his stance clear. He would fight for this excellent successor for his wife. After all, this was what his wife wanted. Fang Yuan did not know about the turmoil caused in the god realm because of him. He was still guessing, why did he in the simulation distribute the cultivation technique? There must be a problem with this simplified version of the spirit power cultivation method. Open black lens bracket. The cultivation speed of the spirit power cultivation method is much faster than the previous general cultivation methods. Although it cannot compare to your own heaven-defying cultivation speed, for those ordinary people, it will probably increase it by about 2 times. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket slowly, the fact that the ranks of Spirit Hall members were suddenly rising rapidly attracted the attention of some factions. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. They dispatched scouts and spies to secretly search for the reason, and soon, they learned of the existence and effect of this new spirit power cultivation method. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Knowledge can be spread as long as it is memorized in the brain. Within Spirit Hall, a commoner female spirit master who was being heavily cultivated and had learned this new cultivation technique betrayed them. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. No, perhaps in her view, passing the cultivation technique issued to her by Spirit Hall to her lover did not count as betraying Spirit Hall. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Until she was discovered by Spirit Hall, captured, and executed, she still thought so, and even felt that Spirit Hall was too cruel and unreasonable. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. If this female commoner spirit master had been Bibi Dong's disciple Huliena, Bibi Dong might have softened her heart and spared her life, but unfortunately she was not, so she died. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. And the lover she was still worrying about before her death had already returned to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan, handing over the spirit power cultivation method he had tricked from this female spirit master to the family. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Other factions like the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School also managed to get their hands on the spirit power cultivation method through their own means. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Spirit Hall took this opportunity to kill a large number of traitors and turncoats. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, you didn't really care about these small matters. With the continuous spread of the cultivation technique, your cultivation speed became faster and faster. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You became a bit bored, so you found some new fun. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You were suddenly very curious, since spirit beasts can transform into humans and have offspring with humans without any reproductive isolation, then, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Where did humans come from in the first place? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This world has no records of how humans were born. Humans seem to have just suddenly appeared in this world, without any reason. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Moreover, humans can also awaken spirits that correspond to the appearance of spirit beasts, and coincidentally, human spirits are inherited from their parents, awakened through the bloodline. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. A crazy idea appeared in your mind. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. And once this idea comes true, then the so-called humans of this world would truly be ridiculous. Close black lens bracket. Chapter 105, Madman and Genius. The simulation screen kept reorganizing, assaulting Fang Yuan's perception. His originally composed expression sank bit by bit, and his brow furrowed tighter and tighter. As someone who had transmigration from the outside world, he knew the plot trajectory of the Douluo Continent by heart, but he had never truly delved into the roots of this world, why humans were born with spirit, why spirit beast could cultivate intelligence and transform into human form, and the strange yet close connection between the two. He had always taken it as the rules of the world, never thinking deeply about it. In his consistent understanding, humans were humans, and spirit beast were spirit beast. Born in opposition, killing each other for generations, it was only natural. But the speculation simulated and deduced at this moment was so crazy that even he felt a wave of absurdity. What if all of this were true? If the humans on this continent were not born from the spiritual essence of heaven and earth, but were descendants of a group of 100,000-year spirit beasts that had transformed and mated with each other, reproducing generation after generation. Then so-called humans were merely descendants of spirit beasts that had shed their beast forms and stabilized their human bodies. Even for the cold-hearted Fang Yuan, he rarely fell into silence. Along his journey, he had killed spirit beast, hunted spirit ring, viewed spirit beast as resources to improve his strength, and had seen countless humans' hostility and hatred toward spirit beast. But if one traced the roots, their ancestors were originally a group of spirit beast. Then all of this was simply absurd to the extreme. Fang Yuan's throat moved slightly, staring only at the constantly jumping simulation text, a complex and indiscernible cold light surging in the depths of his eyes. Privately, Fang Yuan did not hope for this conjecture to be proven true. Open black lens bracket Spirit Hall has been passed down for tens of thousands of years, possessing the most complete collection of ancient texts, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket legend has it that the original angel god rose during the Dark Age when humanity was weak and spirit beast trampled over them at will, defeating those spirit beast, protecting humanity, and gathering faith to finally become a divinity, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket you begin to search for clues within these beautified ancient texts, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, it seems that because they did not want future generations to know, specific information about that dark age was completely destroyed, future generations only know that the human race was miserable during that era, serving as food for spirit beast, and nothing else, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The fact that you spend your whole day soaking in the library also attracted their attention. Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji were worried about whether something had happened to you, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You read through these ancient books without sleep or rest, your clothes slightly disheveled, your face somewhat exhausted, but your eyes were shining brightly, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Facing the two who came to find you, you excitedly spoke of your conjecture, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Why would the spirit beast of the extreme north ice plains want the ice god without any misgivings? Why would the sea spirit beast of the ocean believe in the sea god? Clearly, shouldn't spirit beast be hostile to humans? But, if these divinities themselves were not human, then everything becomes reasonable, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Moreover, even spirit beasts that haven't transformed into human form can mate with humans, giving birth to Wolftoken, and they possess normal reproductive capabilities, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You feel your mind racing rapidly, as if some huge secret is about to be discovered by you, completely ignoring Qian Xunji and Bibi Dong beside you, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. And Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji both widened their eyes, listening to your increasingly frantic, worldview shattering, and increasingly perfect deduction, feeling their heads spinning, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. With a bang sound, an old voice rang out, shut up, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Qian Douluo, who had been observing from the shadows, finally couldn't help but walk out, his gaze landing on you as if looking at a madman, a blasphemer, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You looked at Qian Douluo and closed your mouth. The library immediately fell into a deathly silence, and even Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji couldn't recover from those crazy words just now for a moment, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Originally, Qian Douluo wanted to come and see you after learning that it was you who created that spirit power cultivation method, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Watching you frantically flip through ancient texts these days, he was somewhat confused, thinking it was a genius's quirk or interest, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Until today, when you spoke, he finally knew what you were trying to query and verify by flipping through the ancient texts, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Qian Douluo isolated you, preventing you from continuing to verify this terrifying conjecture, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You were not disappointed, the clues were sufficient, and you intended to enter the next stage, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Although you were isolated, whatever you wanted, Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji would satisfy, with Qian Douluo watching you from the side, worried that you would do something crazy similar to this time again, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You began to research human bloodline and spirit beast bloodline, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You took Bibi Dong's blood and conducted research with the soul-eating spider and death spider, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Of course, this was done secretly. On the surface, you would occasionally take out some small things you researched to fool Qian Douluo, such as a spirit tool made from the spider legs of a death spider, the death spider lance, close black lens bracket. Fang Yuan, outside the simulation, watched this development, feeling an itch he couldn't scratch. He also wanted to possess the brilliant brain he had in the simulation, it was truly useful. Open black lens bracket genius and madness are sometimes only separated by a thin line, and you seem to be jumping back and forth between them. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket in the blink of an eye, you were 12 years old, although you hadn't been cultivating seriously, your spirit power rank still reached rank 56, becoming a spirit king. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Qian Xunji felt it was a bit strange, clearly, she hadn't seen you cultivate for a long time, so why was your spirit power improving so fast? But in a flash, Qian Xunji threw this doubt to the back of her mind. After all, you were a genius capable of creating new spirit power cultivation method and developing all kinds of powerful spirit tool. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. As for Bibi Dong, she seemed to understand you very well and guessed something, but she didn't stop you. Instead, she relaxed management, allowing more people to use the cultivation method you created. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Spirit Hall became increasingly powerful. There was no so-called undercover plan, and Bibi Dong no longer hid her ambition, constantly eroding the two great empires. Under this pressure, Heaven Do Empire and Star Luo Empire even reached a cooperation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. They jointly established a Tianxing team, wanting to defeat Spirit Hall in the next Advanced Spirit Master competition to dampen Spirit Hall's morale. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After learning this intelligence, Qian Xunji scoffed. The Spirit Hall Academy had won consecutively for several sessions at the Advanced Spirit Master competition. According to the 5-year interval, Spirit Hall had almost monopolized the championship for decades, and it was a landslide victory. In recent years, other teams no longer dared to hope for first place, only seeking second. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, before the Advanced Spirit Master competition even arrived, this Tianxing team had already lost. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The reason was very simple. The leading teacher of this team was teacher Qin Ming. Close black lens bracket. Chapter 106, Deep Brainwashing, Top-Tier Materials. Given teacher Qin Ming's talent, being such a young spirit emperor, the 3 committee members of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy highly recommended him. The Star Luo Empire also recognized teacher Qin Ming's strength, which is why teacher Qin Ming became the team leader for this Tianxing team. This team, combining genius students from both the Star Luo Empire and Heaven Do Imperial Academy, had a top-tier lineup. 9-Heart Begonia Yi Lingling as the support, Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Yu Tianeng, Evil Eyes White Tiger Dai Wisi, Hell Civet Zhu Zuyun. Among them, Dai Wisi could perform a spirit fusion skill with Zhu Zuyun. He had the highest spirit power rank and the greatest strength, making him the captain of the Tianxing team. Normally, unless they encountered a team where everyone was a spirit ancestor or even had spirit king members, it was almost impossible for them to lose. However, they happened to lose after being taken out for training by teacher Qin Ming, and they were even defeated by a lower-ranked team. This failure caused this already disunited team to cease maintaining even a facade of peace. Dai Wisi and Zhu Zuyun had the strongest reactions, because among the people who defeated them were their younger brother and sister. Both sides were competitors, it was kill or be killed. Once this information got back to the Star Luo Empire, Dai Wisi's position would be in danger, and Zhu Zuyun, whose fate was tied to his as his fiancé, would not fare well either. Dai Mubai's natural talent for cultivate was better than Dai Wisi's. If not for the age advantage, Dai Wisi would never have been able to suppress Dai Mubai. With this victory, perhaps the Star Luo Emperor would start favoring Dai Mubai. They also didn't understand why that young man named Tang San, who was clearly just a control system spirit master, could be so fast and use such bizarre attack methods. Of course, what made them even angrier was that their team leader, teacher Qin Ming, had concealed information about the opponents from the start and even told them to hold back and not use their full strength to hurt anyone. That was why, caught off guard, they were defeated and knocked off the arena before they could even use their spirit fusion skill. If they had known from the beginning that Dai Mubai and Zhu Zuqing were on the opposing side, Dai Wuxi would never have lost so easily, no matter what. What made Dai Wuxi even more furious was that teacher Qin Ming, who had hidden the intelligence and helped the enemy's team leader, actually came to them and righteously spoke about learning from this failure, not being too proud or underestimating the enemy. Then, he respectfully called the teachers and students of the opposing Shrek Academy, teacher, and juniors. Even the patient and scheming Dai Wuxi finally exploded. Is this learning from failure? This is asking for death. Dai Wuxi, who had originally wanted to win him over out of respect for teacher Qin Ming's talent, could no longer tolerate it in the face of life and death stakes on the imperial throne. He immediately had the spirit Douluo who was secretly protecting him take him and Zhu Zuyun away. If he continued to let this mole of a teacher instruct them, his final duel with Dai Mubai would be a guaranteed loss. As a Star Luo prince who had studied the arts of governance, Dai Wuxi knew that a mole was sometimes more terrifying than an enemy in plain sight. Of course, Dai Wuxi wasn't stupid. When he returned, the reason he gave was that their team leader, teacher Qin Ming, was involved in the Star Luo Empire's royal succession struggle and was biased, which was why he had no choice but to withdraw from the team. No one could find fault with that. After all, teacher Qin Ming was indeed Dai Mubai's senior. Having graduated for many years, he still hadn't forgotten his alma mater and had brought his own students to help. His juniors' practice and gain combat experience, even specifically requesting his students to hold back and not hurt the juniors. However, under the growing strength of the Spirit Hall, after some negotiations, the Tianxing team was formed again. Dai Wuxi and Zhu Zuyun returned to the team, and teacher Qin Ming left. The new team leader was a spirit saint with a clean background, ensuring that the previous incident with teacher Qin Ming would not happen again. After hearing these events, you asked Bibi Dong, why didn't you choose to make a move against Tang San this time? He is the son of the 100,000-year Blue-Silver Emperor and Tang Hao. He was born in opposition to the Spirit Hall, and his talent is good. As the Supreme Pontiff of the Spirit Hall, won't you eliminate this threat in advance? Bibi Dong shook her head and explained, this Tang San seems to have extremely good luck in many ways to save his life. He was also favored by the Asura god. I have tried to kill Tang San several times before, but I failed. At most, I only managed to kill the people around him. Even my pursuit would only accelerate this guy's growth. Hearing this, a look of thought flashed in your eyes, but you didn't dwell on this question and turned to ask about other things. Outside the simulation, Fang Yuan looked at teacher Qin Ming's actions, feeling that it was somewhat unexpected, yet within reason. This guy, teacher Qin Ming, was originally a fanatical student of Shrek Academy. Having experienced deep brainwashing, although he still looked like a normal person, he was actually beyond saving. In the original work, on the life and death arena, with Shrek Academy going all out, he asked his own students to hold back. This in itself was irresponsible as a teacher. Not to mention later, when he actively proposed the plan of borrowing a chicken to lay eggs, letting the penniless Shrek Academy snatch the competition quota of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's second team. After Dugu Bo took action to avenge his granddaughter and drove away everyone from Shrek Academy, he turned around and lost his temper at the 3 committee members who had been very good to him, and without a word, he ran off, abandoning the students who had been injured because of his schemes. For such a person, it wouldn't be strange if he did anything for the sake of Shrek Academy. The only strange thing is, with this personality, how did he manage to live and become a spirit emperor? And is Tang San really that hard to kill? Fang Yuan remembered that during the second simulation, Qian Runshui had killed Tang San once and even took off Tang San's head. You briefly understood the situation in the outside world and then continued your own research. You had already combined spirit tool technology with the science in your memory, and the items you developed were becoming more and more numerous. There were sonic detectors made from the carcass materials of shadow bats, and flight spirit tools made from the wings of speed birds. These things only needed spirit power to be activated, and the effects were more convenient and simpler than the technological products in your memory. This was probably the unique feature of this world. The carcass materials of these spirit beasts were treasures. The materials used to make spirit tools were not only easy to use but also very sturdy and durable. Looking at the development in the simulation, Feng Yuan couldn't help but sigh. These spirit beast carcasses were truly useful. In the original work, after DTN died, his remains were studied by the Tang sect and other forces, and were turned into ecological warships capable of carrying land Xuanyu across space, a top-tier technological product of that era. However, DTN was indeed loyal. He previously protected his master, Jiyu Yuina, and when Jiyu Yuina went missing, he protected the little master Lan Xuanyu. He didn't even get angry when his corpse was utilized. Chapter 107, A Selfish Cultivation Technique Developer. Time passes, and this time, you have not focused too much energy on the protagonist, Tang San. In the blink of an eye, the Advanced Spirit Master competition began, and the two great empires opened the preliminary rounds for the Advanced Spirit Master competition. Shrek Academy was lucky this time to find Lu Erlong's Lanba Academy, and then quite brazenly seize the nest, usurping the host's role. Tang San did not have any immortal herb this time, so his spirit power rank did not improve, and he was nearly 10 years younger than those around him. Meanwhile, the surrounding participating students all practiced your spirit power cultivation method, and their spirit power ranks were on average at the spirit ancestor level, with a small number of geniuses even reaching the spirit king level. It was because of this that Tang San's battles were extremely laborious, and almost every time he had to use the ultimate techniques of the Tang sect. Flender of Shrek Academy found it strange why these participating members were much stronger than in previous years. Born as a commoner, he had no connections and did not know about the spirit power cultivation method secretly circulated by Spirit Hall. And his students were either commoners like him or those who had been abandoned. Ning Rongrong, the only one who knew about this cultivation method, did not have much interaction with these team members due to her personality, so this information was not exposed. However, the speed at which her spirit power rank increased from practicing the spirit power cultivation method still attracted Yu Shaoqing's attention. Seeing that Ning Rongrong, a spirit master of the support system, was cultivating faster than the battle spirit masters in the team, Yu Shaoqing felt strange, especially since the participating teams in this session all seemed to have very fast cultivation speeds. Ning Rongrong told him about her cultivation method, and after hearing it, Yu Shaoqing was very angry. How dare Ning Rongrong hide such a powerful cultivation method? Facing Yu Shaoqing's baseless accusations, Ning Rongrong did not accept it. As a student and a genius spirit master of the support system, she had entered Shrek Academy without a simulated cultivation environment, without guidance from excellent spirit masters of the support system, and had to run with weights to exercise her body like a battle spirit master every day, followed by sparring to hone her combat experience. Now she was being falsely accused of hoarding it. She was a student, not a teacher. Why should she publish the cultivation method? Besides, Yu Shaoqing's Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan had also stolen the cultivation method from Spirit Hall, so why hadn't the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan made it public? The two sides had a big argument. Unlike before in Soto City, where she was alone and helpless, now that she had come to Heaven Do City, her father, the sect master of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, and her grandfather, the titled Douluo, were nearby, so she stood tall and dared to argue back with Yu Shaoqing. Even Dai Mubai, who used to threaten her from time to time, had quieted down now. In terms of status, Dai Mubai, a prince who had been abandoned and fled to the Heaven Do Empire, was actually not as good as her, the little princess of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Ning Rongrong could ask Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo to back her up, while if Dai Mubai dared to go back to Star Luo City to complain to the Star Luo Emperor, he would only be scolded as a good-for-nothing who brought shame to the royal family. Lanba Academy was founded by Lu Erlong, and the students inside were all commoner students who had no knowledge of this new spirit power cultivation method at all. Dai Mubai learned of this information, and the joy and confidence he had felt from defeating his brother, Dai Wisi, under Tang San's leadership last time instantly cooled. No wonder when they met last time, his brother Dai Wisi's rank had actually reached the level of a level 53 Spirit King. Now that so much time had passed, he must have been left far behind. Damn it, how could no one in the Star Luo Empire tell him this information? Did they want him to lose that badly? Zhu Zuqing, on the other hand, accepted it very calmly. Dai Mubai had not been able to obtain the cultivation method, so it was perfectly normal that she, as Dai Mubai's fiancé, did not have it either. However, the flame of wanting to become stronger in Zhu Zuqing's heart was burning constantly. After some persuasion, Ning Rongrong chose to share the spirit power cultivation method with her companions. Even Flender was filled with emotion after trying it. He had not expected that such a powerful cultivation method had been researched, and he had not known about it. His cultivation speed had increased by about 2 times, he had wasted so much time before. Yu Shaogang was more concerned about who had created this cultivation method and why they were so selfless, refusing to share it. Just like himself, he had directly published the 10 core theories of spirits he had researched. Of course, Yu Shaogang did not feel that this cultivation method was anything special. After all, his own cultivation bottleneck at level 29 was unbreakable, and his cultivation had not improved in the slightest, so this cultivation method was nothing more than that. As for Tang San, he compared the cultivation speed of the mysterious heaven skill with this cultivation method and was surprised to find that, in terms of cultivation speed alone, this cultivation method was actually much faster than the mysterious heaven skill. The mysterious heaven skill could expand the 8 extraordinary meridians, while this cultivation technique could reshape a person's meridians, making them more perfectly adapted to this cultivation method. However, it lacked the super endurance and recovery ability of the mysterious heaven skill. Under the guidance of the mysterious heaven skill, Tang San's spirit power was continuous like a tide, and he could recover during battle. Moreover, the mysterious heaven skill was the prerequisite for practicing other ultimate techniques in the mysterious heaven treasure record, such as the purple demon eye, mysterious jade hand, etc. Tang San had already tested the power of those hidden weapons and those ultimate techniques in this world, so naturally, he would not switch to this cultivation method. Moreover, inexplicably, when Tang San tried to practice this cultivation method, he always felt that something was wrong, and his intuition made him give up on practicing it. Although he had obtained this cultivation method, it was of little use to sharpen his spear at the last minute. The competition was still ongoing, and the Shrek team, still under Tang San's leadership, continued to defeat opponents who were stronger than them. However, gradually, Tang San was also feeling some strain. The current Advanced Spirit Master competition was different from 10,000 years later. During the competition, it was required that only spirits, spirit rings, spirit bone abilities, or self-created spirit abilities could be used for combat. The use of spirit tools or other equipment was considered cheating. Tang San could not directly use his hidden weapons, so his strength was greatly limited, and he was fighting with some difficulty. However, he barely managed to secure a spot in the finals. The Tianxing team, composed of excellent members from the 2 royal teams, naturally obtained the qualification for a bye. Arriving at Spirit City, these participating teams were somewhat shocked by the appearance of Spirit City. Mysterious runes were engraved on the towering city walls, and strange objects with fluctuations of spirit power were worn on the bodies of the spirit masters in Spirit City. As a disciple of the Tang sect, Tang San could barely understand the structure of some of these things, which seemed to be similar to his hidden weapons. The competition began. In the first round, the Shrek team encountered the Tianxing team. Everyone felt that there was something shady about it, but no one dared to question it out loud. You sat in the best viewing position to watch the match. Dai Mubai, on the other hand, appeared very calm. He had long known that the decisive battle between him and his elder brother would be at the Advanced Spirit Master competition, and they would meet sooner or later. Immediately, Dai Mubai's gaze fell on Tang San, his eyes filled with expectation. Along the way, there had been countless strong enemies, and every time it reached a critical moment, it was Tang San who led them to victory. Although Dai Mubai's spirit power rank was still higher than Tang San's, in his heart, he had already acknowledged that Tang San was stronger than him. What if, perhaps this time, Tang San could lead him to victory as well? Chapter 108, Physical Body Modification, Secret Techniques. Without having consumed any immortal herbs, Dai Mubai and Zhu Zuqing were heavily injured after only a few rounds when facing the spirit fusion skill of Dai Wuxi and Zhu Zuyun, forcing them to disengage their spirit fusion skill. However, Tang San had also taken this opportunity to unleash his full strength and defeat Yu Tianong and the others. After dealing with his younger brother and sister, Dai Wuxi and Zhu Zuyun became cautious when facing Tang San. They had suffered a loss to him before and knew how strange this youth was. Although he was not an agility attack system spirit master, he possessed a bizarre movement technique that allowed his speed to rival that of an agility attack system spirit master. The 8 spider spears on his back were extremely dangerous and highly toxic. Recent intelligence reports even revealed that he seemed to be a disciple of the Clear Sky sect, possessed twin spirits, and his second spirit was the #1 tool spirit in the world, the Clear Sky Hammer. At the same time, they were also very annoyed, feeling that Yu Tianong was too useless for losing so quickly. According to their original plan, they intended to quickly defeat Dai Mubai and Zhu Zuqing, and then surround and defeat Tang San. Because the spirit power rank of Dai Wuxi and Zhu Zuyun was far higher than Tang San's, and they were exceptionally cautious, while Tang San could not use his hidden weapons, the battle reached a stalemate. In the end, Tang San had to reveal his trump card. He used the purple demon eye to launch a pure mental force shock, directly attacking the sea of mental force of Dai Wuxi, who was leading the spirit fusion skill, causing him to suffer a brief moment of dizziness, which Tang San used to win the match. This action left most of the audience confused, unable to understand why the Hell White Tiger suddenly stopped moving and allowed itself to be defeated by Tang San. However, some high-rank, mentally powerful titled Douluo noticed that Tang San had used a mental attack. They narrowed their eyes as they scrutinized Tang San, wondering if this was another secret technique similar to the Clear Sky sect's ring explosion or the 7 treasure glazed tile school's heart separation control. Bibi Dong had seen this move of Tang San's before and was not surprised. She had once sent people to investigate where these endless secret techniques of Tang San's came from, but unfortunately, there were no clues. Even the time Tang San became a divinity and established the Tang sect, leaving behind cultivation techniques, they were merely castrated versions, far less powerful than what Tang San himself used. This seemed to be Tang San's biggest secret. No matter how Bibi Dong investigated, Tang San never exposed it, and he never fully taught it to anyone else, not even his father Tang Hao or his mother Yin. Thinking of this, Bibi Dong lowered her head, her gaze falling upon you. Did you actively come out of the laboratory this time just to watch this Tang San? Bibi Dong was puzzled. Just how many secrets did this Tang San have? He possessed so many secret techniques, had extremely good luck, was able to obtain a divinity legacy every time, and might even be able to resurrect after being killed. But what you were paying attention to was not those so-called secret techniques of Tang San. You naturally knew that those secret techniques were actually the peerless skills Tang San had stolen from the Tang sect in the original Shushan world, while you had created many more powerful cultivation techniques relying on your own strong comprehension ability. You were more concerned with Tang San's physical body, which possessed half the Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline, twin spirits, and was even a body capable of the Blue-Silver Emperor awakening ceremony. He hasn't cultivated the spirit power cultivation method I established. That's a bit troublesome. You could clearly perceive that Dai Mubai, Ma Hongjun, and the others had all practiced the spirit power cultivation method you established. Their physical body meridians had been expanded and modified, and their spirit power cultivation speed was becoming faster and faster as the modification deepened. Only Tang San had merely tried it initially, compared it, and then immediately gave up, continuing to cultivate the mysterious heaven skill. His physical body showed almost no signs of modification. You found Bibi Dong and handed over the other complementary cultivation techniques you had developed to her. Among them were the light body movement technique Cloud Ascending Ladder, the body refining cultivation technique Indestructible Vajra skill, the 9-yin skeleton claw, and many other cultivation techniques. Each one was a cultivation technique comparable to a top-tier spirit ability. The only requirement was that one must have learned your spirit power cultivation method to practice these cultivation techniques. Bibi Dong was gifted and quickly achieved initial mastery. After testing the power of these secret techniques, Bibi Dong's eyes shone, and she couldn't help but marvel at your comprehension ability once again. She understood your personality and knew that since you chose to spread these secret techniques, you must have had some ulterior motive, yet Bibi Dong still chose to help you without hesitation. Among them, the current golden generation of Spirit Hall, Juliana, Xie Yu, and Yan, were all cultivating your spirit power cultivation method and were naturally taught these secret techniques. However, due to the short amount of time, only Juliana, the rank 59 Spirit King who specialized in mental charm, had barely mastered the soul-moving method, a type of mental control secret technique. Most charm control spirit abilities in the Douluo Continent could only cause an opponent to fall into a daze and be unable to attack actively, whereas the soul-moving method was much higher level. It could not only cause an opponent to lose their mind and even briefly obey one's commands, which had miraculous effects when gathering intelligence, but it could also resist or counter mental attacks of the same type. More importantly, like Tang San's purple demon eye, the soul-moving method could increase the practitioner's mental attributes as they cultivated. It should be known that mental attributes could be said to be the most difficult attributes for a spirit master to improve. Even for Juliana, it was due to her spirit's innate talent, combined with the mental improvements from compatible spirit-beast spirit rings, that she possessed mental force far exceeding that of spirit masters of the same rank. After learning all the functions of the soul-moving method, Juliana appeared very excited. Unfortunately, she had only just achieved initial mastery, so the effect was average. The next day, the grand finals of the high-level Spirit Master Tournament officially began, with the two teams being Shrek Academy and the Spirit Hall Academy. Among them, Shrek Academy had managed to reach the grand finals despite their team members having such low average spirit power, which attracted the attention of most of the audience. As soon as the match started, because of Bibi Dong's prior instructions, Juliana did not underestimate the enemy due to the difference in their ranks. Especially after learning that Tang San possessed many secret techniques, including some even similar to the soul-moving method, Juliana was even more focused. During the battle between the two sides, because they had obtained intelligence in advance, the students of the Shrek team all avoided Juliana's line of sight. However, Juliana's control spirit abilities could be triggered not only through sight but also through other media such as sound. And the soul-moving method could also use the practitioner's spirit power, gaze, and specific frequency syllable vibrations to create strong telepathy to disrupt the opponent's mind. Therefore, this method of avoiding control had no effect. On the contrary, Tang San felt a sense of crisis coming from behind him. Chapter 109, Spirit Hall Cheating, the youngest titled Douluo. Behind Tang San, Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun, the two strongest attack system spirit masters, launched an attack on Tang San under Juliana's control. A scorching red beam of fire and a pale yellow shockwave both flew toward Tang San. However, Tang San's mental force was strong, and his perception was keen. Even with his back to them, he could sense the movement behind him. Blue-black-blue-silver grass grew wildly, blocking behind Tang San to fend off the damage. Tang San sustained some minor injuries, and his gaze toward Ma Hongjun and Dai Mubai was full of confusion and vigilance. Immediately, Juliana's control duration ended. Ma Hongjun and Dai Mubai's eyes regained clarity, and looking at the current situation, they were a bit dazed, not knowing what they had just done. The Spirit Hall team also attacked. The battle was extremely chaotic, and Tang San felt incredibly stifled. Not only did he have to fight the members of the Spirit Hall, but he also had to be wary of the occasional sneak attacks from his teammates behind him. Especially when Ning Rongrong, the wielder of the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda spirit, was controlled and cast support spirit abilities on the opposing Spirit Hall team, Tang San couldn't help but want to knock all these troublesome teammates off the stage. Tang San had thought about taking care of Juliana first. But the current Tang San had not consumed any immortal herb, and Juliana was different from Xinyan, whom he had killed. Xinyan had used illusions to try to confuse Tang San, which happened to be countered and seen through by Tang San's purple demon eye. Tang San played along, relaxed Xinyan's vigilance, and finally killed him with one blow using the Yama invitation. Now, Juliana had not used any spirit abilities on Tang San, and Huliena's main focus was mental and control, with a spirit power rank much higher than Tang San's. Tang San's purple demon eye, whether for seeing through reality or for mental attacks, was useless against Huliena. Tang San on the arena stage also couldn't use his hidden weapons. By the end of the fight, Tang San could be said to have tried his best. Since his transmigration and rebirth, apart from those seniors whose strength was far above his, he had never lost to young people of his generation, and defeating opponents of higher ranks was normal for him. He could not accept that he, who possessed the unique skills of the Tang sect, would lose to these ignorant natives. Unfortunately, he still lost. As a spirit master under the age of 25, you also had the qualifications to participate. Yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 7 spirit rings appeared around you. Tang San lay at your feet, and Huliena clutched the wound on her arm, her lips turning purple from the poison, looking down at you in shame. Originally, before the match started, Huliena had confidently said that they could win the match without you needing to make a move. The referee announced the victory of the Spirit Hall team in a timely manner, and the surrounding support system Spirit Masters immediately stepped forward to treat the injuries and detoxify the participants. Just then, Yu Shaogang shouted loudly, "Supreme Pontiff, I have an objection to this match." As he spoke, he held up that Supreme Pontiff token in his hand. For a moment, there was silence on the viewing platform of the Supreme Pontiff Palace. The people of the Spirit Hall did not directly take action against this Spirit Grand Master, but instead looked at the Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong on the high platform, waiting for her orders. Seeing the token is like seeing the Supreme Pontiff, but since the Supreme Pontiff was right there, naturally, they had to listen to the Supreme Pontiff. It was impossible for a mere Supreme Pontiff token to be more important than the Supreme Pontiff herself. Bibi Dong glanced at Yu Shaogang's weathered face, which was over 50 years old, and silently looked away. Yu Shaogang was a mere spirit grandmaster, and his cultivation was not enough to extend his lifespan. 20-something years had passed, and he had long since changed from a dashing young master to a cold-faced middle-aged uncle. His current appearance was already considered well-maintained. Of course, the main reason was that Bibi Dong met you every day, and her aesthetic standards had been raised to the peak. Suddenly seeing Yu Shaogang like this, she naturally felt it was a bit of an eyesore. Bibi Dong spoke coldly, her tone full of majesty. "Yu Shaogang, what objection do you have? Today is the finals of the Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament. It concerns the reputation of the Spirit Hall. If you cannot provide a reasonable explanation, do not blame the Spirit Hall for being impolite to you." Although Yu Shaogang was intimidated by Bibi Dong's spirit power, he was not afraid. Instead, he pointed at you as you were leaving the arena, his tone suddenly rising, full of certainty and questioning. "Everyone, please look. This member of the Spirit Hall team, his spirit power rank is a spirit saint. The Continental Advanced Spirit Master Tournament clearly stipulates that contestants must not exceed the age of 25, but how can there be a spirit saint under the age of 25 in this world?" Yu Shaogang paused, scanned the crowd, and seeing everyone's eyes on him, he became even more confident. What kind of cultivation is a spirit saint? Ordinary spirit masters might not even reach this realm in their entire lives, so how could one reach the spirit saint realm before the age of 25? The Spirit Hall team must have cheated in secret and tampered with the contestants' age information. How can such conduct convince the public? As a spirit master with only spirit grandmaster cultivation, Yu Shaogang dared to confront the powerful Spirit Hall in front of everyone. And it was not a momentary impulse. Firstly, he had studied the Spirit Master system deeply and knew the objective laws of Spirit Master cultivation. He was certain that the Spirit Hall must have tampered with the age, which was his confidence. He had to seek justice for his disciple. Secondly, he remained confident in his heart, feeling that relying on the past between himself and Bibi Dong when they were young, even if she held a high position and became the Supreme Pontiff of the Spirit Hall, she would still remember some old feelings and would not really kill him. Yu Shaogang had another thought before. He wanted to find Bibi Dong personally and ask about the method of cultivating twin spirits. He knew that cultivating twin spirits was dangerous, and Tang San's future cultivation would need to draw on Bibi Dong's experience and methods. Unfortunately, when he made a special trip to the Spirit Hall last time, his luck was not good. At that time, Bibi Dong happened to be out and was not in the palace, so he missed that opportunity after all. The people around listened to Yu Xiaoging's words, and whispers arose one after another. They all felt that what he said made a lot of sense, and the Spirit Hall must have lied about the age. After hearing these doubts, the expression on Bibi Dong's face was somewhat mocking. Yu Xiaoging, you have a good memory. We can be considered old acquaintances. Since that's the case, then tell me, when you first met this Supreme Pontiff, how old was this Supreme Pontiff? And what was my spirit power rank? Instantly, the previously confident Yu Xiaoging's face stiffened. His Adam's apple bobbed hard. When Bibi Dong first met him, she was only 17. Having cultivated for no more than 11 years, she had already become a spirit emperor. Although they separated afterward, Yu Xiaoging knew that with Bibi Dong's talent, there was a high probability that she could cultivate to break through to Spirit Saint before the age of 25. And the fact was indeed so. Not only did Bibi Dong break through to Spirit Saint before the age of 25, but she also became a titled Douluo in her 30s, even younger than Tang Hao, the youngest titled Douluo in history who break through at the age of 44, only Bibi Dong did not choose to make it public. Chapter 110 General Secret Techniques, The Reckless. Moreover, it is not just Bibi Dong. Within Spirit Hall, there is another person who is equally stunning and unparalleled. Before the age of 25, she has already stepped into the Spirit Saint realm. That is the daughter of the Supreme Pontiff, Qian Xunji. However, at this moment, Bibi Dong alone was enough to make Yu Xiaoging, who had just been so confident, instantly change his expression. At this moment, fine cold sweat oozed from Yu Xiaoging's forehead, sliding down his temples. His previous confidence had already vanished completely. After all, he had just sworn firmly and asserted unequivocally that there were absolutely no spirit saints under the age of 25 on the continent, only to be slapped in the face immediately after. It was truly embarrassing. Yu Xiaoging had always considered himself a grandmaster, and valued his reputation and face above all else in his life. Now that his assertions had been overturned in public, he felt his cheeks burning and his chest tightening. He could not have felt more uncomfortable. At this time, several veteran faction leaders watching from the sidelines spoke slowly. Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong was the holy maiden of Spirit Hall back in the day, with talent unparalleled in her generation. Her spirit power surpassed a spirit king by the age of 17. Given her aptitude, breaking through to the Spirit Saint realm before the age of 25 is only to be expected. It is just unclear why this stunningly talented holy maiden of Spirit Hall suddenly disappeared in her 20th year, never appearing in public again, and did not even participate in that year's Continental Advanced Spirit Master Tournament. Therefore, no one could know for certain what realm her spirit power had reached by the age of 25. As the voice fell, the other faction leaders around also nodded in agreement, their words full of recognition. As a peerless genius who led her generation of spirit masters by a wide margin, everyone present was deeply impressed by Bibi Dong. For a moment, the gazes directed at you also became matter of fact. After all, being a genius of Spirit Hall, possessing talent and growth speed that ordinary people cannot reach is very normal. Instead, it was Yu Xiaoging, who had casually asserted that Spirit Hall was cheating, who now appeared particularly ridiculous. Especially since Yu Xiaoging had known Bibi Dong in his early years, he clearly knew the talent of this old acquaintance, yet he still made such arbitrary remarks, which only added to the awkwardness of his current situation. This time, Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong of Spirit Hall spoke personally to settle the matter, officially announcing that the Spirit Hall team had secured the final victory in the Continental Advanced Spirit Master Tournament. As one of the top powerhouses on the continent and the highest authority of Spirit Hall, her prestige and strength went hand in hand. Once these words were spoken, no one in the audience dared to question them even half a sentence. The highly anticipated Continental Advanced Spirit Master Tournament thus officially came to an end. And you, Fang Yuan, also, by virtue of your performance that crushed the entire field on the competition arena, completely entered the field of vision of the various forces on the continent, and began to be watched and known by countless people. However, after the tournament, you did not go out to gain experience like other emerging geniuses. Instead, most of the time you lived in seclusion, holed up all day in the exclusive research laboratory of Spirit Hall, either immersed in research or focusing on closed-door cultivation, rarely stepping into the outside world, and not participating in any public activities. Those forces full of curiosity about you, even if they sent people everywhere to inquire, could never obtain any useful information. Your internal spirit continued to evolve and transform, and the talent you displayed did not look like that of a trash with innate spirit power level 1. Your family, far away in another land, never connected this rising genius of Spirit Hall with their youngest son who had gone missing many years ago, and other forces on the continent generally assumed you were an orphan adopted and carefully raised by Spirit Hall from a young age, knowing nothing about your past background. However, before the various forces on the continent had time to dig deep into your background, they soon had no time to care about you. This newly emerged genius, something that could shake the entire continent, had spread from within Spirit Hall. In fact, over the years, the growth of Spirit Hall's strength had long made the two great empires, Heaven Do and Star Luo, sit on pins and needles. The peerless and efficient spirit power cultivation method could train a large number of spirit masters. The endless stream of special spirit tools further broke the spirit master's world's understanding of spirit tools. And now, Spirit Hall had brought out a trump card capable of subverting the spirit master cultivation system, a set of general secret manuals that were not restricted by spirit and could be cultivated by anyone. You must know that the vast majority of secret manuals on the continent were essentially exclusive spirit abilities created by top powerhouses combined with their own spirit characteristics, deeply bound to the spirit. Without the corresponding spirit, there was absolutely no possibility of cultivation. Just like the Clear Sky sect, the head of the upper three sects, its trump card Ring Explosion Secret Manual and Great Sumeru Hammer Profound Truth could only be cultivated by direct descendants who had awakened the Clear Sky Hammer spirit. Outsiders could not even enter the door even if they obtained the complete secret manual. Because of this, for thousands of years, no force had ever dared to covet the Clear Sky sect's secret manual. The Dragon Transformation Secret Manual of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect was the same. Only clansmen who had awakened the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon spirit could invoke the bloodline power to cultivate, and others could not touch the knack of it at all. It was precisely by relying on these unique exclusive secret manuals that the upper three sects could be passed down through generations, firmly sitting on the throne of the continent's top forces, with no one able to shake them in the slightest. But now, Spirit Hall had actually brought out a set of general secret manuals that broke through the shackles of spirit and could be cultivated by anyone. Once this news came out, it instantly set off a monstrous wave throughout the Spirit Master's world. Those forces that had been secretly watching Spirit Hall's movements could no longer hold back. They all secretly sent people to inquire about the details of the secret manual, and even spared no effort to use all resources to obtain and try to cultivate it at the first opportunity, just to verify whether this secret manual was true or false. However, soon the various forces discovered the key. Although this set of secret manuals from Spirit Hall broke the spirit restriction and everyone could try to cultivate, it imposed another strict requirement on the practitioner. Talent. This talent had nothing to do with the level of innate spirit power, and nothing to do with the quality of the spirit. The core that truly determined whether one could enter the door was the brain. The secret manual itself was extremely profound and obscure. The writing was full of subtle deductions about the logic of spirit power operation and the principles of mental force scheduling. It was definitely not something that ordinary spirit masters could master by rote memorization. Many brutes who only knew how to bury their heads in hard cultivation all year round and lacked theoretical accumulation could not even read the basic classics of the secret manual smoothly. They even had to look up the specialized annotations of the Spirit Master's world word by word to barely finish reading it, let alone understand the core essence within and officially start cultivation. This created a phenomenon. Many geniuses with high innate spirit power and powerful spirits repeatedly hit a wall in front of this set of secret manuals and could never touch the threshold of entry. Instead, some disciples with average innate spirit power who were not favored on weekdays, but had flexible minds, extensive interests, and were willing to spend time studying various theoretical, miscellaneous books, could read the logic and context of the secret manual faster and successfully complete the introductory cultivation. Chapter 111, Genius Yu Shaogang Fails to Enter, Star Luo Succession Dispute. Gradually, these spirit masters finally realized, albeit belatedly, that these secret techniques had absolutely no relation to spirit talent or spirit power rank. Their threshold was, in fact, intelligence. Only those who were sufficiently clever could touch the threshold of entry. This point was particularly evident in the Clear Sky sect. Those Tang clan disciples who had accompanied the Clear Sky Hammer since childhood and practiced hammer-swinging techniques bitterly day after day had always prided themselves on strength and scoffed at theoretical knowledge. Facing these profound secret techniques, not a single one could truly enter. Oh, that's not right, there was one exception. That was Tang Yuehua, who resided in the Moon Pavilion. Born with a spirit restriction, her spirit power could never break through rank 10, destined to never become a true spirit master. Because of this, Tang Yuehua invested a great deal of time into learning, possessing wisdom far exceeding that of ordinary people regarding worldly affairs, classics, and strategy. Relying on this superior intellect and knowledge, she managed the Moon Pavilion alone. The profits earned were not only sufficient to provide for the daily cultivation of the Clear Sky sect's many disciples, but she had even single-handedly supplied the cultivation resources needed by 7 titled Douluo for the sect. In terms of intelligence and vision, she was undoubtedly the most outstanding in the entire Clear Sky sect. Therefore, when Tang Yuehua came into contact with these secret techniques, she actually successfully grasped the way to enter. But a new problem followed. Entering the secret techniques relied on comprehension ability, but operating them required spirit power support. She only had the meager spirit power of a spirit scholar, which was simply insufficient to activate the secret techniques. Often, as soon as she attempted to operate them, the spirit power in her body would instantly be exhausted, and the true power of the secret techniques could never be unleashed. Even so, Tang Yuehua could not hide the joy in her heart. Being able to learn and perform them was already a huge gain for her. The other disciples of the Clear Sky sect were filled with confusion and unwillingness. Those proud children of the sect who were strong and had deep spirit power could not understand the secret technique manuals, yet this Tang Yuehua, who was viewed as a useless person in the sect due to her low spirit power, was actually able to enter first. This huge contrast was difficult for them to understand. However, this confusion did not last long. As disciples of the Clear Sky sect, their pride was deeply rooted in the power system inherited from the Tang clan, and the profound truths of the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, ring explosion, and great Sumeru hammer were what they truly valued. In their view, these secret techniques that relied on cleverness could never be considered elegant, and were far less reliable than their own legacy, so naturally, they didn't take them to heart anymore. On the other side, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan, after figuring out the core requirement of these secret techniques, that they were intelligence-heavy, immediately thought of Yu Shaogang. This son, most beloved by the clan chief Thunder Douluo, although having an innate spirit power of only half a rank, making his cultivation path extremely difficult, still had a small reputation in the spirit master's world under the title of theoretical genius. The high-level members of the family immediately sent someone to rush the secret technique manuals to Yu Shaogang, hoping that this theoretical genius could use them to quickly enter, prove himself with strength, and let the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan hold their heads high before other sects, changing the criticisms they had endured in the past due to Yu Shaogang being a failure. In the end, it was a helpless move. Yu Shaogang had an innate spirit power of half a rank and was destined to have difficulty becoming a powerful spirit master, yet he acted in a high-profile manner and carried the name of the Yu family. Over time, it was inevitable that he would be criticized outside, causing the family to lose face. Although the family members didn't say much out of respect for the clan chief Thunder Douluo, they were always stifled inside, hoping that Yu Shaogang could really take this opportunity to win some respect with his theoretical talent. However, reality ultimately dealt the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan a heavy blow, leaving everyone deeply disappointed. Yu Shaogang held those secret technique manuals, studying them at his desk until midnight, his brows tightly locked, sometimes deep in thought, sometimes calculating, but in the end, he couldn't even cross the most basic threshold of entry. After a brief disappointment, a trace of calculation quickly flashed in his eyes, and his gaze fell upon Tang San beside him. Since he couldn't learn it himself, it would be the same if his disciple Tang San learned it. As long as the disciple was outstanding enough, others would naturally think it was because he, the teacher, taught well, and he could still regain face. Yu Shaogang actually knew his own worth better than anyone. If he didn't know that his own talent was limited and his innate spirit power was low, he wouldn't have stayed at Notting Academy for years, researching theory. He kept, "There are no useless spirits, only useless spirit masters," on his lips, yet he exclusively chose a peerless genius like Tang San, who possessed twin spirits and full innate spirit power, rather than actually following that slogan to select an ordinary child with an average spirit and low innate spirit power. Once the thought arose, Yu Shaogang immediately turned to Tang San, solemnly pushed the secret technique manuals in his hand in front of him, and earnestly urged him to try practicing them. He had originally given the matching spirit power cultivation method to Tang San, so he naturally assumed Tang San had already cultivated it, believing that with Tang San's talent, practicing these secret techniques would surely be a matter of course. However, Yu Shaogang never expected that Tang San had long been secretly cultivating the mysterious heaven skill and had not practiced that spirit power cultivation method, making it impossible for him to practice these matching secret techniques. Tang San naturally could not reveal the secret of the mysterious heaven skill. He had always been meticulous, and he knew clearly that with Yu Shaogang's personality, he would inevitably get to the bottom of it, and then the secret of the mysterious heaven skill would be difficult to keep, so he could only remain silent. The atmosphere between the master and disciple dropped to freezing point. It wasn't that Tang San hadn't seen the utility of those secret techniques, but the power of the Tang sect's unique skills and the mysterious heaven skill was already deeply rooted in his heart. He firmly believed that the cultivation technique he practiced was more exquisite and powerful, and he had absolutely no interest in these foreign secret techniques, nor would he possibly abandon his existing foundation to switch to practicing other cultivation techniques. On the other side, the astonishing strength displayed by Spirit Hall at the Advanced Spirit Master competition, as well as those mysterious secret techniques, once again raised the vigilance of the two great empires to the peak. But vigilance is one thing, the two great empires ultimately found it difficult to let go of their mutual suspicion and estrangement to join forces against Spirit Hall. The situation in the Heaven Do Empire was already precarious. Emperor Shui Yi was advanced in age and lacked energy, and the only prince, Shui Beng, had mediocre aptitude and could not shoulder heavy responsibilities. Furthermore, because Qian Xunji had not disguised herself as Shui Qing and diligently handled government affairs as in the original story, Emperor Shui Yi had already exhausted his energy just suppressing those restless principalities and noble forces. Where would he have the spare power to assemble troops and take the initiative to wage war against Spirit Hall? Although the Star Luo Empire had strong national power and the foundation to support a major war, at this moment, it was at a critical node in the competition for the imperial succession, with undercurrents surging. The Star Luo Emperor could only forcibly suppress the fear and dissatisfaction in his heart towards Spirit Hall, not daring to rashly mobilize troops. Speaking of the Star Luo Empire's succession showdown, it was even more chaotic. According to the Empire's original plan, they intended to let the two princes decide the winner with the Hell White Tiger Spirit Fusion skill, determining the final successor based on strength. However, an accident occurred. The Hell White Tiger of Dai Mubai and Zhu Zuqing was defeated by Dai Wuxi and Zhu Zuyun in just a few rounds, but then, Dai Wuxi was defeated by Tang San, losing the match. Dai Wuxi defeated Dai Mubai, but was then defeated by an outsider. For a time, the interior of the Star Luo Empire was in endless debate over who exactly is the true winner between Dai Wuxi and Dai Mubai. Chapter 112, Reforming Believers, Harvesting Faith. However, these matters do not count as significant events in your eyes. As your uniquely created secret techniques and spirit power cultivation methods spread secretly across the continent, the overall strength of spirit masters throughout the entire Douluo continent has been climbing rapidly at an unprecedented speed. Spirit Hall, being the first to benefit, has used this to have people break through their shackles one after another, producing several titled Douluo elders, causing its foundation and deterrent power to skyrocket. Even those ordinary spirit masters with mediocre talent and extremely poor aptitude, who in the past would have found it difficult to make any progress in their entire lives, have not only seen their cultivation speed far exceed the past under the cumulative, subtle, and transformative influence of your spirit power cultivation method, but their own spirit power limits have also been continuously broadened and raised, with a promising future ahead. It is a pity that the narrow-minded Yu Shaogang, after practicing it superficially and failing to break through his own bottleneck, abandoned it and from beginning to end failed to discover the hidden effects of this cultivation technique. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong of Spirit Hall announced to the world from Spirit City the official establishment of the Spirit Empire, and immediately declared war on the two great empires of Heaven Do and Star Luo with thunderous momentum, with the flames of war instantly sweeping across the entire continent. At this time, your spirit power rank has already firmly stepped into the ranks of the level 92 attack system titled Douluo. What is even more terrifying is that as long as you are willing, relying on the trump cards and accumulation in your hands, you can ascend to the realm of the level 99 limit Douluo at any time, standing at the pinnacle of the continent's spirit masters. Those spirit masters who have practiced your cultivation technique and whose physical body has already been quietly transformed are, in your eyes, like walking experience packs. Once needed, they can be absorbed and refined by you at any time, turning into your own cultivation and insights, without the slightest rejection. Not only that, but you also maintain a faint mental bond with these practitioners. You can easily infiltrate, influence, and even completely transform their thoughts, making them revere you as their master from the bottom of their hearts, willingly acting according to your will, and becoming your most loyal pawns. With the powerful enemy of Spirit Hall on the outside and the spirit masters who rebelled due to your influence on the inside, the two great empires of Star Luo and Heaven Do retreated steadily, suffering a crushing defeat, with their territories falling one after another, completely unable to resist the iron hoofs of the Spirit Empire. Among them, the disciples of the Clear Sky sect, due to limited intelligence, did not successfully practice your secret techniques, but they did practice your spirit power cultivation method. Their physical body was transformed, and most of the disciples within the sect had already been secretly influenced by you, their hearts turning towards Spirit Hall, and they defected. Only Sect Master Tang Xiao and Tang Hao, deeply brotherly and with resilient minds, maintained their original intentions, and finally exhausted all their strength to take the father and son Tang Hao and Tang San in a hasty flight, from then on hiding their names, fleeing from place to place, and struggling to survive. By the way, Tang San did not successfully complete the awakening of the Blue-Silver Emperor. The Blue-Silver King responsible for presiding over his awakening ceremony had already been hunted by you and turned into your spirit ring. In the end, the Spirit Empire swept through all forces with unstoppable momentum, ultimately unifying the entire Douluo continent. During this period, Bibi Dong's Rakshasa God trial proceeded smoothly, and she successfully stepped into the next trial. Qian Xunji officially started the Angel God trial, stepping towards the position of divinity. And you have finally reached the time to officially begin your own plan. You began to set about popularizing your secret cultivation techniques across the entire continent, but before that, you first took a step to implement compulsory education, wiping out illiteracy in the world, allowing everyone to be literate, laying a foundation, and then gradually teaching your cultivation technique. This time, you no longer disguise or restrain yourself. Whether they are ordinary people or spirit masters, all are forced to practice your cultivation technique. At the same time, you also began to collect faith. Just like sea god Poseidon protects sea soul masters and sea soul beasts, and suppresses the deep sea demon whale king, thereby gathering the pious faith of hundreds of millions of sea soul beasts and sea soul masters, you began to consciously spread your new title across the entire continent, God of Knowledge and Wisdom. Nowadays on the continent, whether they are commoners or spirit master cultivators, almost everyone is practicing the spirit power cultivation method you passed down. Even if ordinary people cannot cultivate spirit power, they can still strengthen their bodies. Their physical body has long been subtly transformed, and an invisible bond exists between them and you. As long as you have a thought, you can easily sense the state and thoughts of every single person. And you also used this to begin selectively bestowing gifts according to the depth of the believer's piety, fulfilling what they sought in their hearts. When farmers prayed for favorable weather and a good harvest for the coming year, you bestowed detailed techniques for improved crops, intensive farming, water and fertilizer management, and pest and disaster prevention. When spirit masters longed for cultivation advancement and to break through their bottleneck, you directly transmitted the optimized spirit power cultivation method 2.0 into their minds. When young girls longed for a beautiful appearance and an upright posture, you granted them gentle methods for nourishing qi and blood and caring for their skin. All such things, whatever they sought, as long as their faith was pious, there was a high probability they could receive your response. Only those nobles of the old era, after the Spirit Empire unified the continent, lost their privileges and fiefs, fell from the clouds, and hated the spirit hall that overthrew them, and naturally, they also hated you, the person standing behind Spirit Hall, to the extreme. They did not generate a shred of faith, and you did not care about this at all. On the continent, the believer's faith in you became more pious and fervent day by day. Investigating the reason, there were only 2 points. First, everyone who practiced your cultivation technique had their physical body transformed and was naturally influenced by your will. Unless they were people with iron-willed determination far exceeding ordinary people, from the beginning, they were already your shallow believers, instinctively believing in you. Second, it was your timely response. Compared to those ancient divinities in the God realm who received offerings and prayers from believers all year round but never responded in the slightest, you were truly too reliable. As long as they were pious and believed sincerely, they could always receive more or less feedback, whether it was a flash of inspiration or a technique. This visible and tangible grace made the fire of faith burn more and more vigorously. What made you feel slightly surprised was that you actually received a God's trial. You did not have any actions to actively seek a God's trial, but a divinity from the God realm actively sent down a God's trial. However, this was only a second-tier divinity, so you rejected his God's trial and chose to continue gathering faith. Your speed of gathering faith was very fast, but you felt it was still not fast enough. The faith of humans on the Douluo Continent had already been harvested by you. What remained were the Sea Soul Masters of Seagod Island, the Sun-Moon Empire on another continent, and the Spirit Beasts. Chapter 113, Genius Joins, Sun-Moon Empire. Open black lens bracket. Among these 3 choices, you finally locked your gaze firmly onto the Sun-Moon Continent, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Compared to the simple-minded and difficult-to-educate deep-sea spirit beasts, and the Seagod Island spirit masters who are deeply entrenched in their faith and impervious to reason, the Sun-Moon Continent is undoubtedly the perfect fertile ground for you to spread your faith and expand your influence. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You immediately gave the order to begin assembling an expeditionary force. This army consists not only of young geniuses carefully nurtured by Spirit Hall with outstanding talent but also various spirit masters who see the world's grand trend and know that those who submit to circumstances are wise. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Under the thunderous momentum of the Spirit Empire sweeping across the continent, countless wandering factions and loose cultivators have chosen to defect. Some seek to preserve themselves, while others wish to cling to Spirit Hall to climb to higher levels. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Driven by the grand trend, coupled with the subtle influence of the physical modification secret technique you promote in secret, more and more young geniuses have voluntarily joined under the banner of Spirit Hall. Among them are top students from the various high-level Spirit Master Academies of the 2 great empires, the sisters Shui Yuaa and Shui Binger from Tianshui Academy, Feng Xiaotian from Kamikaze Academy, Huo Wu from Blazing Academy. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Names that once emerged in the Spirit Masters world have all been gathered under the banner of the Spirit Empire. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Even Ma Hongjun and Zhu Zuqing from Shrek Academy ultimately chose to join the Spirit Empire. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket Ma Hongjun was originally weak-willed and unstable in his heart nature. Under the influence of the physical modification you imposed, his mind was quietly swayed, generating a sense of closeness to Spirit Hall, and he was eventually half willingly and half forced to join the ranks. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. As for Zhu Zuqing's choice, it was purely for survival. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Survival, after all, is never shameful. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Her pairing with Dai Mubai, compared to Zhu Zuyun and Dai Weisi, was already at a disadvantage in every aspect. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Apart from Dai Mubai's slightly higher innate spirit power, the two were completely crushed by their counterparts in every regard, whether it was scheming and shrewdness, social interaction, or actual combat strength. Dai Mubai's victory in the Continental Advanced Spirit Master Elite competition back then was merely a carry to victory. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. When the two returned to the Star Luo Empire, Dai Weisi's long-term operations were deeply rooted. Court officials had long since taken sides, and they successively raised doubts about the results of this prince competition. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the Star Luo Empire, which values strength and believes in survival of the fittest, Dai Mubai's past act of shrinking from battle and fleeing in panic had long since caused him to lose all faith. Now, relying on others' protection to win the championship was seen as a grave humiliation, and naturally, no one was willing to speak for him. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The new round of competition for the throne and spirit legacy had no suspense. Dai Mubai and Zhu Zuqing ended up with a crushing defeat. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. As a prince, Dai Mubai was spared and imprisoned. However, for Zhu Zuqing, his fiancée and sole partner for the spirit fusion skill, her fate was incomparably miserable. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. To nip the problem in the bud and completely cut off any possibility of Dai Mubai's retaliation, Dai Weisi aimed his butcher's knife at her immediately. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Star Luo Dai family can firmly sit on the throne not because the White Tiger spirit is top tier, but entirely due to the support of the spirit fusion skill with the Zhu family's Hell Civet spirit. Once Dai Mubai loses Zhu Zuqing, it is equivalent to severing his own arm, leaving him with no capital to contend with him at all. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Upon learning the news that she had become an abandoned pawn and was about to be executed, even though Zhu Zuqing had long been mentally prepared, the last line of defense in her heart still collapsed instantly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. She had tried hard enough to survive. Even after being abandoned and betrayed by Dai Mubai time and again, and even with her heart filled with resentment and disgust, for the sake of survival, she still endured the humiliation and followed him back to the Star Luo Empire. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. But why, even after such humble concessions, is she still unable to escape death? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Looking across the entire Douluo Continent, the only forces capable of protecting her life from the Star Luo Empire's pursuit are the upper three sects, the Heaven Do Empire, and Spirit Hall. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. But the upper three sects are busy with their own affairs, and the Heaven Do Empire can barely protect itself. Who would be willing to openly offend the powerful Star Luo royal family for an unknown little girl with only level 7 innate spirit power and spirit ancestor cultivation? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Zhu Zuqing understood this better than anyone. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The only place willing and capable of protecting her is Spirit Hall. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. And you do not care about the purpose of these people joining Spirit Hall, whether they are cowardly, sycophantic, forced by circumstances, or harbor ulterior motives. You do not care at all. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. As long as they join Spirit Hall, cultivate the cultivation technique you passed down, and accept the modifications you imposed, they will have no way back. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Either they become your loyal subordinates and devout believers, or they turn into experience points for you to improve your strength. Either way, it is a guaranteed profit for you. close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Currently, the elders of the Elders Hall are in seclusion and do not concern themselves with worldly affairs. Qian Douluo is focused entirely on Qian Runshui's angel god trial, and Bibi Dong is secretly preparing for the Rakshasa god trial, with no time to be distracted by worldly matters. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The vast spirit hall, and even the entire spirit empire, is currently entirely under your control. Every one of your orders is strictly executed. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. Under your preparations, a massive fleet carrying an army of 100,000 elite spirit masters slowly sailed away from the port of the Douluo Continent. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Giant sails blocked the sky and sun, warships stretched endlessly, and the majestic pressure, seen from afar, looked like a moving sea of steel, with a terrifying aura. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Sun-Moon Empire was able to unify the entire Sun-Moon continent and suppress all factions because its royal family's 3 inherited spirits, the purple-gold extinguishing heaven dragon, the sun spirit, and the silver moon spirit, are all top-tier, formidable existences with unfathomable foundations. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Naturally, you would not underestimate the enemy in the slightest. To this end, you spent a full half-year preparing, reorganizing the army, and refining spirit tools, only ordering the army to set out after everything was ready. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Before the army officially set out, you had long since dispatched several batches of elite scouts to quietly infiltrate the waters of the Sun-Moon continent. They secretly investigated the coastal defenses, dangerous undercurrents in the sea, the distribution of spirit master forces, and the strongholds of major factions, thoroughly mapping out the intelligence of the Sun-Moon continent's borders to ensure that when the 100,000-strong army lands, they will not fall into a passive, caught-off-guard predicament. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. During this time, you received 2 more gods' trials, from the god of war and the goddess of wisdom, both secondary gods, but you still did not agree. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Outside the simulation, Fang Yuan saw this and fell silent for a moment. You were lofty. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. A genius who is excellent to a certain degree, even if they do not actively seek a god's trial, will have gods come to them automatically. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Even if no gods come, one can condense a god position and become a god themselves. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Fang Yuan could clearly feel that the version of himself in the simulation looked down on these gods' trials. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Fang Yuan recalled his own first blood. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. He hoped that these gods would not be as petty as the Rakshasa god, getting angry and acting out after being rejected. Close black lens bracket. Chapter 114, Sun-Moon Empire changes hands. Spirit Beast Faith. You manage the Spirit Empire, yet you hold no actual official position. The Supreme Pontiff is Bibi Dong, the Young Lord is Qian Runshui, the High Priest is Qian Douluo, and the Holy Maiden is Huliena. However, you possess a title that is universally recognized, Lord. From the bottom of their hearts, they feel you are incredibly amiable, and whenever they see you, they have an urge to prostrate themselves in worship. You are their Lord, the creator of knowledge, the divinity of wisdom, guiding them onto the correct path. Your brilliance and benevolence spread throughout the entire continent. You clearly perceive their fanatical emotions toward you, and then you reveal a smile. After several days of reconnaissance and preparation by the Vanguard team, you avoided all coastal checkpoints of the Sun-Moon Empire and successfully landed on a desolate, rocky, and remote shore. The entire process was silent, leaving not a single trace behind. This time, you did not choose to directly wage war or sweep across the territory with force. Instead, you ordered the entire army to change their attire, conceal their tracks, and disguise themselves as merchants and ordinary refugees, quietly spreading your faith across this strange land. At first, it only spread in the shadows, but as more and more people were called, the ranks of devout believers continued to grow. Eventually, actions became difficult to completely conceal, gradually attracting the attention and vigilance of some local forces. This time, you no longer follow the slow and methodical approach of the past, wasting effort to induce others to cultivate your cultivation technique, then going through the tedious process of slowly modifying their physical body and subtly reshaping their consciousness. This time, you simply stopped hiding and chose to use power to directly twist their thoughts, modifying their soul from the root to make them completely submit to you. The Sun Moon Empire was inherently a highly feudal, centralized, and despotic nation. At this stage, research into spirit tools was nearly non-existent, information within its borders was blocked, communication was extremely backward, the grassroots populace was ignorant and blindly obedient, and the vast majority of ordinary people did not even know the name of the reigning emperor. You only needed to use your methods to firmly control the lord of a city, then subdue several noble clan chiefs who held real power in the city. Afterward, using them as fulcrums to teach the cultivation technique and spread the faith to the ordinary commoners and spirit masters in the city, you could quietly bring the entire city under your control without resorting to weapons or alerting the enemy. Just like that, city after city changed hands under your silent layout, without raising a single ripple. It was not until the 15th city surrendered that you finally revealed your tracks. However, in the eyes of the Sun Moon Empire's court and public, you were merely a local sect spreading faith in a deity within the empire, posing no significant threat. The Sun Moon Empire only symbolically dispatched officials to persuade you to surrender and submit, not taking it to heart. The Sun Moon Empire's emperor possessed a sun spirit and was already at the titled Douluo level of cultivation. Considering himself the ruler of an empire that would unify the continent, with vast territory and strong national power, he did not look at a mere sect with any regard, convinced that it could not stir up any trouble. The minister ordered to go and subdue you returned to court to report, claiming that Spirit Hall had willingly bowed and submitted. Upon hearing this, the emperor completely set his mind at ease, viewing the matter as a trifle, and never inquired about it again. Having obtained a legitimate status on the surface, you no longer needed to act in hiding. Previous covert operations turned into open expansion, and your actions became increasingly unbridled. In just one short year, the Sun Moon Empire had long been thoroughly infiltrated and hollowed out by Spirit Hall, renamed to the Spirit Empire. That emperor, who boasted of his majesty and possessed a sun spirit, a titled Douluo, never expected until his death that he would die from being poisoned by the seemingly inconspicuous chef and maidservant by his side, his soul returning to the Yellow Springs. This world is just like that. No matter how powerful an expert is, their level of life does not change. Poison can kill a titled Douluo, and crossbow bolts can kill a spirit king or spirit emperor. With the dust settled, a sense of inexplicable loss inexplicably welled up in your heart. To deal with the Sun Moon Empire, you had carefully prepared for half a year, arranging many backup plans. Unexpectedly, just by using Plan 1, you easily took down the entire Sun Moon Empire. The intense confrontation you had anticipated never occurred. Your physical body strength became increasingly formidable after the major achievement of the Vajra indestructible cultivation technique. You led people deep into the evil spirit forest, engaged in a great battle with the evil eye tyrant dominator, successfully hunted it down, and then set off to return to the Douluo Continent. On the way back, you also conveniently slew the two marine overlords, the evil spirit Orca King and the deep-sea demon Whale King, completing the full set of spirit rings for this clone, pushing your strength to new heights. This is the second clone you refined. Its physical body, having undergone countless modifications and tempering, has reached a near-perfect state, highly compatible with your spirit and soul, with no barriers, and its spirit is precisely the blue lightning tyrant dragon. As for your original body, it never left Spirit City for a single step from beginning to end, protected by Qian Xunji, Bibi Dong, and Qian Douluo. After you hunted the deep-sea demon Whale King, a group of sea soul masters, coincidentally, encountered you. They talked enthusiastically about the legends of Seagod Island, recounted the past miracles of the sea god, and warmly invited you to join them in searching for traces of Seagod Island. You indifferently declined this invitation and headed straight back to Spirit City. For this blue lightning tyrant dragon clone, the most compatible god position is naturally that of the thunder god. As for the sea god position, you already had other arrangements in mind. With the vast and pure power of faith condensing, you estimated that you could condense a second-class god position in 100 years, a first-class god position in 300 years, and perhaps a god-king god position in 1,000 years. This speed, compared to the angel god and sea god who spent 1,000 years just to condense a first-class god position, could already be called shocking and incredibly fast. Yet, looking at the slowly converging stream of faith light, you were still unsatisfied. You completely looked down on the meager power of faith that the sea soul masters of Seagod Island could provide. Your gaze shifted and landed on the spirit beast tribes that were spread throughout the Douluo Continent and far outnumbered humans. Although humans and spirit beasts have been opposed since ancient times with deep-seated grudges, and wanting to make the unruly spirit beasts sincerely believe in you is as difficult as ascending to heaven, there are always more solutions than difficulties. Moreover, you still had Xiao Wu as an inside agent. With her helping to pave the way secretly among the spirit beasts, this seemingly impossible task already had a feasible breakthrough. Originally, Xiao Wu wanted to sacrifice herself to you, but you refused without hesitation. In your view, the compatibility between the spirit ring and the spirit is more important. As for Xiao Wu's golden body and teleportation, you could slowly develop your own self-created spirit ability to replace them. Moreover, even with your top-tier comprehension ability, you still did not understand how the soft bones demon rabbit, clearly a charm-type spirit beast, would have these two completely unrelated skills as its origin spirit ability upon sacrifice. Chapter 115, Star Do Faith, Rank 100 Spirit Master. With Xiao Wu, a spirit beast that has taken human form, acting as an inside agent, plus the assistance of the two forest overlords, Sky Azure Bull Python and Titan Giant Ape, by her side, your missionary activities targeting the Spirit Beast clan within the Star Do Great Forest proceeded exceptionally smoothly from the very beginning. However, within the Star Do Great Forest, veteran spirit beasts that have lived for long ages and possess high intelligence still exist. Not only did they choose not to believe in you, but they were also full of vigilance regarding this sudden spread of faith, secretly beginning to investigate the source of it all. It didn't take long for all suspicions to point entirely to Xiao Wu. In the eyes of these intelligent spirit beasts, Xiao Wu and the two beasts, Da Ming and Ming, had already become traitors who betrayed the entire spirit beast clan. They immediately gathered their forces to besiege the three of them, and clone number 1, which you had placed beside Xiao Wu, also appeared and took action at the critical moment. Regarding actual combat power, with your top-tier comprehension ability and having pioneered countless cultivation techniques and cutting-edge technologies, even if you were to sweep across the Sun-Moon continent and the Star Do Great Forest, leaving these two territories desolate with no survivors, it would not be a difficult task. But you did not choose to exterminate them like that. Instead, with a benevolent heart, you gave them a final chance to convert to your faith and survive. Just like back in the Sun-Moon continent, you used your own power to distort the thoughts and perceptions of these high-level spirit beasts, erasing their hostility and letting them turn to assist Xiao Wu in continuing to advance the missionary work. The group of vicious beasts deep in the Lake of Life did not notice anything unusual. Apart from the Emerald Swan Bai Ji, who would appear periodically to heal injured spirit beasts, the other vicious beasts did not care about the life or death of the ordinary spirit beasts at the bottom. And Bai Ji herself did not possess sufficient intelligence and initiative. Even if she vaguely felt that something was wrong in her heart, she ultimately did not take any action. As your faith spread further within the Star Do Great Forest, the time required for you to condense the God-King God position was directly shortened to 800 years. At the same time, your second clone, which possesses the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Spirit, also successfully obtained the qualification for its own God's trial. In the year you turned 28, Qian Xunji and Bibi Dong successively completed their respective God's trials to perfection, both ascending to their God positions. It was also at this moment that Tang San, who had been lying dormant, finally dared to emerge from the extreme North Ice Plains. He also successfully inherited a God position, becoming the Asura God. The progress of his great-grandfather Tang Chen's trial was directly inherited by Tang San. Tang San skipped almost all the trial content, which could almost be considered a meteoric rise, becoming a god directly. After becoming a god, Tang San was overflowing with confidence. He immediately gathered a group of people, such as the surviving remnants of the Clear Sky sect, the former teachers and deans of Shrek Academy, and the royalty of the Heaven Do Empire and the Star Luo Empire. Then he struck out fiercely at Spirit Hall, wanting to avenge the deep-seated blood feud accumulated over these years. Qian Xunji and Bibi Dong joined forces to fight the enemy, 2 against 1, but the battle situation was not optimistic. This was only because the god position Tang San obtained this time was the god-king position of the Asura god, and the divine artifact in his hand, the Asura god sword, was an ultra-divine artifact of the highest level. During the Dragon God War in the past, this sword had killed the Dragon God's true body. Even fighting 1 against 2, Tang San was still able to steadily suppress Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji. However, this result could not satisfy Tang San. He prided himself on possessing the Tang sect's unique skills and having inherited a god-king level god position, originally thinking he could easily resolve his opponents. But Qian Xunji and Bibi Dong had long since practiced the various cultivation techniques you taught, and with the powerful assistance of spirit tools, even if they were not at an advantage, they were still able to barely withstand Tang San's offensive. You, on the other hand, were observing this god battle from the sidelines, a look of disappointment gradually appearing in your eyes. These so-called gods, apart from their own energy values increasing significantly and their bodies transforming from flesh and blood to energy forms, allowing them to escape lifespan limitations, did not display the supreme power that a true god should have in your imagination. They were just like a group of spirit masters who had simply had a breakthrough to rank 100. In your imagination, as a god, one should at least master a portion of the rules, whether it be space-time, life and death, destruction, or order, all should be touched upon, rather than relying solely on brute force to fight. Unfortunately, this was only your imagination after all. The god battle in reality was dull and tedious, both sides were merely channeling divine force, wielding divine artifacts, and bombarding each other with spirit abilities, which was no different in essence from a duel between high-level spirit masters. You shook your head in disappointment and stopped watching this meaningless struggle, letting your first clone and second clone take action to completely end this battle. The 2 clones moved in response. One possessed the top-tier beast spirit Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon, and the other wielded the strongest support spirit, the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda. The 2 were in perfect harmony with your main body, tacit understanding without gaps, and could even perform a spirit fusion skill. 9-colored divine light spread across the sky, and a giant blue dragon wreathed in violent thunder appeared within the light, the dragon's mouth slowly condensing a beam of white light of extreme purity. The beam of light shot out instantly, but it did not head straight for Tang San. Instead, it was completely absorbed by a special spirit tool with a strange shape. The energy was continuously compressed, refined, and violently mutated within it, eventually brewing a power capable of destroying heaven and earth. Tang San took in this scene, and alarm bells rang in his heart instantly. From that strange spirit tool, he, who had already become a god, felt extreme danger. He immediately wanted to pull away and escape at all costs, but was blocked by Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji, who were holding him back tightly. Finally, a blindingly extreme white light erupted suddenly. A deafening, earth-shaking roar exploded. A huge mushroom cloud shot straight into the sky, thick smoke covering the firmament. The ground was blasted into a giant hemispherical crater with a diameter of 3 kilometers. Everything within that radius was completely annihilated, disappearing without a trace. In the distance, your 3rd clone, carrying clone No. 1, clone No. 2, Bibi Dong, Qian Xunji, and others, stepped calmly out of a slowly closing spatial rift, looking at the battlefield that had been completely destroyed before them. In your telepathic mental detection, there was no longer any spiritual fluctuation inside. Qian Xunji and Bibi Dong looked at the terrifying 3-kilometer diameter crater and the rolling thick smoke that had not yet dissipated, their entire being deeply shocked, their faces filled with disbelief. They had never seen such terrifying destructive power. A single Blow had razed the entire battlefield to the ground, leaving them deeply shaken and unable to calm down for a long time. You, however, only looked at the scene before you with a calm expression, knowing very well the fatal weakness of this move. This attack required too much charging time, the activation process was cumbersome, and it could easily be interrupted halfway. It was fundamentally unusable in fast-paced, high-intensity combat. Moreover, its actual power did not reach your expectations at all. At best, it could only deal with a newly ascended god like Tang San, whose foundation was unstable. At the very least, Silver Dragon King Ji Yuina and the space god among the 7 element gods could easily dodge it, let alone the 5 god kings above them. Chapter 16 Spirit Beast Company Master. Open black lens bracket. After this act of slaying a divinity, your illustrious reputation completely resounds throughout the entire Douluo Continent. All living beings in the world are even more in awe and reverence of you, and your prestige has reached an unprecedented peak. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Thousands of believers are immersed in extreme worship of you, their faith becoming increasingly paranoid and fanatical. In every town, statues of you have been erected, incense burning endlessly day after day. People bow down and kowtow, offering worship day and night with the most devout attitude. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You wait patiently, only to regretfully discover that the fallen Tang San has not experienced rebirth. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji ascended to their god positions, restricted by the laws of the Douluo plane, their physical bodies and divine force were gradually repelled by the world. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This continent can no longer accommodate the 2 first-class divinities for long, they can only stay for a brief moment before they must leave. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The 2 of them cast their gaze upon you, their hearts already stirring. They want to rely on the cross-boundary permission that comes with being first-class divinities to forcibly take you to the god realm. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, they can no longer see through your true state, unable to distinguish whether what stands before them is your true self or a clone. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the end, after weighing the pros and cons, they abandoned the idea of forcibly taking you away. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You look up indifferently, not caring about their little schemes. Close black lens bracket. Outside the simulation, Fang Yuan, who is watching the simulation progress step by step, nods slowly. A look of realization flashes in his eyes as he mutters to himself, as expected, those cultivation techniques spread outward have harbored hidden dangers from the very beginning. I would never bestow favors gratuitously for no reason. However, the fact that they could also modify the physical body and refine it into a clone was something Fang Yuan had not expected. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan cannot help but sigh with emotion. He was still too narrow-minded, underestimating the terror of 40 points of comprehension ability. Open black lens bracket. Watching Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji leave has no impact on you whatsoever. Now, Spirit Hall has long been firmly under your control. Everyone from top to bottom reveres you as the sole dominator. Within the entire faction, no one dares to defy your orders. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. All living beings practice the cultivation techniques you passed down, and their bone structure, aptitude, and cultivation talent have all undergone subtle transformation and leaps. Many of your subordinates have obtained the opportunity of the God's trial. Familiar people such as Oscar, Ma Hongjun, Zhu Qing, Huliana, Shui Binger, and Feng Xiaotian are all among them. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. When you first screened for suitable clone carriers, you had considered this group of people who obtained the God's trial. After repeated deliberation and weighing, you eventually rejected and discarded them one by one. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Except for Ma Hongjun, Oscar, and Zhu Qing, the others are already too old. Their most precious cultivation time has already been wasted. Spending a large amount of resources to cultivate them would not be worth the loss, and the compatibility of their physical body and divine soul transformation could not reach the perfect standard by a long shot. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket Ma Hongjun's spirit is still the evil fire phoenix with huge side effects. His bloodline is impure and riddled with flaws, so he simply cannot catch your eye. Zhu Qing had low talent in her early years and a shallow foundation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Only Oscar's innate conditions are barely qualified. However, as a food system spirit master, the effects of his spirit ability require teammates to consume the food he creates to trigger. In your eyes, possessing top-tier comprehension ability and transcendent vision, such highly restricted auxiliary abilities are far inferior to the pure, direct, and flawless all-around amplification of the 9-treasure glazed tile pagoda. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After weighing the pros and cons, you simply gave up on them and personally spent effort to cultivate a 9-treasure glazed tile pagoda spirit master to tailor-make a clone. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Time flows slowly. The impetuous Ma Hongjun indulges in ease and pleasure, his will is weak and his determination insufficient. In the end, he fails to withstand the many trials of the Phoenix God's trial, suffering a complete defeat in the rigorous God's trial, thereby missing the opportunity to become a god. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In contrast, Oscar has a tenacious mind and deep obsessions. With his unique beliefs and bottom line, the food god's trial progresses steadily. The path of trial is smooth and unobstructed. After experiencing many trials, he successfully sheds his mortal body and ascends to his god position. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Except for the defeated Ma Hongjun, the others, even though they encountered bumps, twists, and turns during the god's trial and experienced hardships and obstacles, all gritted their teeth and persevered. One by one, they overcame the trial difficulties, completely finished the god's trial tasks, and successively stepped into the ranks of divinities. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Human divinities emerge one after another. The 100,000-year and above vicious beasts entrenched throughout the continent become increasingly law-abiding, not daring to act recklessly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your power of faith crosses racial barriers, quietly spreading and infiltrating, firmly taking root within the entire spirit beast population. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Gu Yuina comes to find you on her own initiative, filled with suspicion and a grave expression. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. She recently suddenly realized that the luck of the spirit beast company master she enjoys is slowly dissipating and continuously draining at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Since descending to the Douluo planet, Gu Yuina has been in seclusion, lying dormant and focusing on healing her wounds, never truly concerning herself with the survival of the continent. Spirit beasts are the order of the group. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. She is able to sit firmly in the exalted position of spirit beast company master entirely by relying on the supreme aura innate to the ancient dragon clan, coupled with her subordinates conquering everywhere and using force to forcibly intimidate, coercing the entire continent's spirit beast population to submit, only then barely maintaining this rule. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Having already personally experienced the myriad benefits brought by the blessing of luck, although Gu Yuina did not show it, she still values the identity of spirit beast company master extremely highly in her heart and is naturally unwilling to let her authority and luck drain away for no reason. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Therefore, the moment she noticed her luck was gradually weakening, she followed the invisible connection of karma, locked all suspicions onto you, and came specifically to confront you and investigate the cause. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Of course, bearing the arrogance and nobility innate to the dragon clan, she has never truly regarded a mere human like you in her eyes. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The reason she suppressed the urge to take action and did not directly attack was not because she feared your strength, but because she feared the hidden dangers lurking behind you, as well as the power of the god realm that constantly watches this plane. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. But the moment she looked up and saw your appearance, her cold eyes suddenly stagnated, and she could not help but be slightly dazed. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your figure is outstanding, your appearance like gold and jade, your demeanor dazzling, as if a blazing sun were in the sky. Your aura is transcendent and refined, your cascading long hair flowing slowly like a river of gilded gold, rippling with layers of brilliant golden radiance, so beautiful that it makes one's soul tremble. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. When she came, she was full of hostility and aggressive, filled with questions and pressure. When she left, she retracted her edge, restrained her hostility, her attitude inexplicably becoming gentle and polite as she silently turned and left quietly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Watching her receding figure, you secretly felt a bit of regret in your heart. How did Ji Yuina become so stingy? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. She didn't leave behind any benefits before leaving. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You must know that this Silver Dragon King even gave the incredibly precious Golden Dragon King Dragon Core to Tang Wulan without hesitation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Why is it that when it comes to you, there is nothing at all? Closing square bracket. Chapter 117. God King God Position, God Realm Committee. Crossing thousands of planes, countless human beings and spirit beasts of various races day after day gather their pious obsessions and pure faith, surging and condensing layer upon layer like a tide upon your body, while the ethereal prototype of your God position slowly solidifies, nourished by the immense power of faith. Meanwhile, the countless clones scattered across the Douluo Continent have also one by one passed through layers of God's trial to achieve divinity. 500 years have passed, and you bathe in the gaze and worship of billions of fanatically devoted followers, with flowing light surging around you, ultimately condensing a golden God ring with complex, mysterious patterns and a dazzling, fierce golden light, completely breaking the shackles to achieve the God King God position. Yet the entire scene is permeated with an unspeakable strangeness. Among the thousands of kneeling believers, whether they are human groups with complex bloodlines or spirit beasts of various forms, their expressions and limb movements are all uniform and identical, their stiff, numb appearances arranged in perfect order, chilling one to the bone and making one's hair stand on end at a single glance. Facing the birth of you, a newborn God King who has suddenly risen and appeared from nowhere, the divinities of the God realm all display an extremely friendly attitude of acceptance, genuinely expressing their welcome. Ultimately, this is merely driven by self-interest. The territory of the God realm is vast but fraught with crises, and every additional top-tier God King stationed here provides another layer of solid combat power, causing the overall defense and deterrent power of the God realm to skyrocket. Since the creation and existence of the God realm, it has endured countless upheavals and disasters over the long years, and has never truly experienced long-term stability amidst dangers both large and small. In the past, the dragon god fell during the Great War of the God realm, its body shattered and its divine soul dissipated, yet the disasters and hidden dangers left behind by this ancient supreme have never been completely eliminated. Not to mention the Silver Dragon King and DTN hiding and healing on the Douluo Continent, the Divine Beast Forest located in a corner of the God realm is the most troublesome hidden danger that makes all the divinities the most wary and difficult to deal with. The Divine Beast Forest originated after the end of the ancient Dragon God War and is the final refuge for the ancient divine beasts who survived the defeat and were stranded in the God realm. Most of the divine beasts that followed the Dragon God in rebellion were stripped of their God positions, had their divine force abolished, and were all expelled and imprisoned here, living in hiding for generations. This secret realm is located in the desolate and remote edge of the God realm, a region isolated and closed off, shrouded in layers of natural barriers, with complex terrain, and combined with the heavy restrictions and secret mechanisms set up for generations, it naturally forms a cage isolated from the world, which is why it is dubbed the God-forbidden land, by the God realm, specifically used to imprison serious criminals and rebellious powerhouses. The fierce and cruel Golden Dragon King from back then was jointly suppressed by the gods and sealed layer by layer in the deepest part of the Divine Beast Forest. To strictly prevent the guys in the God-forbidden land from breaking through the seal and causing harm to the God realm, the God realm has to send powerful high-ranking divinities to take turns guarding it year-round, never daring to be the slightest bit negligent. The thousands of small worlds that rely on the God realm for survival are also turbulent, with hidden dangers lurking. There was once an empire with a highly developed soul guide civilization whose ambition swelled, arrogantly blaspheming the gods, attempting to pry into and steal the secrets of the divinities, and using mortal bodies to study and forcibly forge weapons of slaughter with power comparable to the treasures of demigods, intending to challenge divine rule. Fortunately, the god realm detected it in time and destroyed this blasphemous civilization, thus avoiding a major disaster. In addition to internal and external troubles, beyond the thick and sturdy boundary of the god realm, there are crisscrossing space-time rifts, with extraterrestrial demons eyeing it covetously, at every moment coveting the richness and power of the god realm, and attempting to invade the god realm. Under these circumstances, a newborn god king with top-tier combat power is extremely rare, so the god realm naturally welcomes your appearance. Although you have only just arrived in the god realm, you are very popular. The gentle former food god and the nine-colored goddess both hold you in high regard and take the initiative to show their goodwill. Although the sea god Poseidon hides a trace of regret in his heart, feeling sorry that you did not take his sea god's trial and instead chose to condense your own god position, he still appreciates you as a junior. You have managed to cross the boundary between humans and beasts, simultaneously obtaining the faith of both the human and spirit beast groups, achieving the same as him. The ones currently holding the Rakshasa god position and the angel god position are none other than Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji. They have an intimate relationship with you and are almost inseparable, staying together day and night. Huliena, Shui Binger, and a group of newly ascended divinities were all your former subordinates and are even more pious believers who follow you. You are clearly just a young god king who has recently ascended to the god position, yet you have already gathered a complete and stable team behind you. What shocks the divinities of the god realm the most and makes them feel it is incredible is your mind-boggling speed of spirit power increase. Even though you have successfully condensed the God King God position, you have only just stepped over the threshold of rank 100. According to common knowledge in the world, the cultivation of a newly ascended rank 100 divinity should only be slightly superior to the lowest ranking God official in the God realm. Even with the accumulation of thousands of years of heritage, one can at most break through a few ranks. In the history of the God realm, the highest record is only a breakthrough of 10 ranks. But your cultivation has completely broken common sense, and your spirit power rank is skyrocketing at an unimaginably terrifying speed, climbing all the way to rank 120 in just a short period of time. At this moment, your comprehensive strength is already comparable to a second-tier divinity. When the sea god spent thousands of years settling and accumulating, his speed of improvement after breaking through rank 100 was not this exaggerated. After you became a god, as a new god king, you should have joined the God Realm Committee, but the God Realm Committee rejected your admission on the grounds that you had just become a god and lacked the strength to handle God Realm affairs. But when the divinities witnessed your terrifying speed of improvement, which was like 1,000 miles a day, the God Realm Committee looked solemn and finally re-examined you, the newly ascended God King, with a brand new perspective. The God Realm Committee has always been jointly governed by 5 God Kings, maintaining the order and balance of the entire God Realm. The 5 God Kings each hold their own positions, and their attitudes are completely different. The God of Goodness is compassionate and inclusive of all things, and the Goddess of Life is gentle, peaceful, and indifferent to worldly affairs. Neither of them rejects your arrival, nor do they mind you joining the ranks of God Kings and the God Realm Committee. The Asura god is cold and strict. Since there were some disagreements between you in the past, he wants to make things difficult for you. The god of destruction has more concerns. Since the creation of the God realm, you are the first special case to independently condense a God King God position. This makes him, who holds the law of destruction, wary, and unwilling to let you, an anomaly, easily take root in the God realm and step into the core of power in the God realm too quickly, shaking the inherent structure. Only the god of evil stays out of it. Facing the different thoughts of the 5 God Kings and the turbulent undercurrents, he maintains a playful, spectator-like attitude throughout. Chapter 118, Damaging the Majesty of the Law Enforcement God King, Offspring. Open black lens bracket. The rift between the Asura god and you is rooted in Tang San. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Asura god exhausted endless effort to carefully select Tang San as his successor for his god position. For this, he spared no cost, disregarding the laws of the God realm, secretly using his authority to guide Tang San's soul to the Douluo Continent for reincarnation and rebirth, all to polish the successor most compatible with himself. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Yet, circumstances are unpredictable. Tang San, for whom he had spent so much effort planning, ultimately perished at the hands of Spirit Hall. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The result of his efforts going to waste naturally left the Asura god with unquenchable fury, and he naturally cast all his resentment upon you, the primary culprit. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After Tang San fell, with the Asura god's cultivation as a god king, reversing life and death and reshaping flesh to resurrect a mere mortal from the lower realm should have been a trivial matter. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Although the God realm has established ironclad laws against arbitrarily interfering with the operations of the lower realm, as the law enforcement god of the God realm, he already held immense authority, making many rule-based shackles mere formalities for him. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Previously, he was able to wantonly break boundaries to forcibly send Tang San to the Douluo Continent for rebirth, which shows that these rules were dispensable to him. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Looking at the entire God realm, most other divinities are well versed in the art of self-preservation and have reached a tacit understanding. Even if they notice the Asura god's rule-breaking actions, they tacitly turn a blind eye, unwilling to easily offend this supreme god king who holds the power of punishment. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Yet things went against his wishes. This time, the Rakshasa god acted out of character, openly supporting her own successor, Bibi Dong. She was willing to tear off the mask of civility, insisting on confronting the Asura god head-on and opposing him at every turn. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Such a hardline stance completely contradicted the Rakshasa god's usual style. In the long years past, even though her philosophy clashed with the factions of the Asura god and the Sea god, and they occasionally had friction, it was at most secret scheming, covert sabotage, or secretly poaching promising successors. It was petty mutual restraint, never rashly touching the Asura god's bottom line, maintaining a delicate balance. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Only this time, her attitude was unyielding, and she refused to concede even an inch. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Although the Rakshasa god's comprehensive combat strength is a notch inferior to the Asura god, she is a veteran first-class divinity of the God realm and shares the same origin as the Asura god. With a deep foundation and devious methods, she is by no means comparable to ordinary divine officers or lower-level divinities. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Even if the Asura god were furious, he could not treat her like a lowly divine officer and use his power to suppress and punish her at will. If this conflict between divinities were brought completely into the open, it would only end in mutual destruction, making them the laughingstock of the entire God realm and damaging the majesty of his law enforcement God king position. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Weighing the pros and cons, the Asura god could only temporarily suppress his obsession with resurrecting Tang San, sealing and protecting Tang San's incomplete soul origin, and hiding it properly, intending to wait for the storm to subside before making further plans. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The price of a hardline confrontation is never equal, and the outcome of the Rakshasa god's insistence on opposing him was this: the furious Asura god repeatedly came to cause trouble. After clashing several times, the Rakshasa god suffered significant injuries and is now forced to remain in seclusion, focusing on healing her wounds. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This is the first time the Asura god has faced you in reality. In the past, he had glimpsed your appearance from afar through divine thought, but when he truly saw you, having already ascended to the God realm, the Asura god's heart still stirred slightly, and he was vaguely stunned. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your aura is awe-inspiring, with a mane of gilded hair that is gorgeous and eye-catching, as if woven from the crushed suns of the 9 heavens, with every strand flowing with dazzling luster. Your temperament is fierce and majestic, like a scorching sun hanging in the sky, with sharp edges radiating 10,000 jong. You carry an aura that warns strangers to keep their distance, and your radiance is so extreme that it makes everything around you pale in comparison, making it difficult for others to look directly at you, inspiring awe. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The moment he gazed at you, in a trance, time seemed to trace back millions of years. As the Asura god looked at this dazzling, unparalleled figure, he inexplicably thought of the remnant shadow of an old acquaintance sealed in the ancient past. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Besides your soul-stirring appearance and temperament, what made the Asura god even more wary and puzzled was your incredible, heaven-defying aptitude. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. He could not understand it at all. The world knows that innate rank 1 spirit power is recognized in the lower realm as the lowest tier of aptitude. According to the common logic of the world, you were destined to be mediocre for life, becoming a waste on the path of cultivation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Yet you broke everyone's inherent impression, growing step by step, and finally becoming a divinity. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Full of doubts, the Asura god even secretly lowered his status and practiced the cultivation technique you created with your own hands. Comparing it with the mysterious heaven skill that Tang San relied on for his practice, both have their own strengths and weaknesses, but the essence is worlds apart. Tang San's mysterious heaven skill was merely stolen, taken from the martial arts legacy of the mortal Tang sect, already set in stone and difficult to improve. However, your self-created cultivation technique originates from yourself, it can be improved, and with the growth of knowledge and learning, it can be continuously deduced and perfected. The difference in caliber between the two is immediately apparent. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Originally, the Asura god had thought about letting you become his successor, but your temperament was truly too aloof. You repeatedly rejected the god's trial invitations thrown by several divinities, insisting on creating your own god position. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This made the Asura god dismiss the idea. If even the Asura god's trial was rejected by you, then he, the Asura god, would lose too much face. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Inside the hall of the God Realm Committee, the 5 supreme gods who hold power each held their own views, debating whether you were qualified to join the God Realm Committee. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After several rounds of debate, the god of destruction and the Asura god ultimately joined forces to gain the upper hand, forcibly suppressing the proposal for you to join the God Realm Committee, and the matter was shelved once again. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. From beginning to end, you remained indifferent. You had long seen through the essence of the world. In the final analysis, strength is king. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. These divinities, who are high above and look down on all living things, once the halo of their god position is stripped away, are nothing more than a group of strong individuals who have mastered powerful strength. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Just like the once tricky and troublesome Qian Xunji, Bibi Dong, and even the Rakshasa god, now, for you, they no longer count as a threat. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. When strength is sufficient to crush all obstacles, all problems will naturally be solved. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. 10,000 years later, your spirit power has long since broken through level 150, and your son has already grown to 6 years old. Close black lens bracket. Outside the simulation, Fang Yuan widened his eyes when he saw this, feeling that some important information had been skipped. How did he suddenly have a son? Who gave birth to him? And he could actually make those female lunatics live in peace and use them for himself. Then what about the previous versions of himself that were killed by them so many times? Was he stupid? Is comprehension ability and intelligence really that important? Having had contact with Bibi Dong and Qian Xunji in reality, and even having been imprisoned by these two, Fang Yuan truly knows how difficult these people are to deal with. They cannot communicate at all, and their mental states are somewhat abnormal. How on earth did the version of himself in the simulation stabilize these people and manage to obtain resources to succeed smoothly? Fang Yuan sighed once again at how op his comprehension ability is. He chose comprehension ability this time actually to try and see if there would be any qualitative change when comprehension ability reaches a certain level. Last time, his family background reached a qualitative change, allowing him to become the son of a divinity, but his aptitude and comprehension ability were too low. Although he piled up resources and became a divinity smoothly, his upper limit was capped. Chapter 119, Electrolux, I am not even 1/10,000th of your excellency. Open black lens bracket. Due to your cultivation technique and consumption of the immortal herb, your physical body aptitude had long since been altered. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Since birth, the child inherited the aptitude of you and your partner, possessing wide meridians and a robust physique, born as a naturally brilliant talent for cultivation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. It is only a pity that he failed to inherit your spirit, awakening instead the Holy Spirit, the six-winged angel spirit. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The bodies of divinities in the God realm have long since turned into pure aggregates of energy, making it extremely difficult to conceive offspring. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. To give birth to offspring, a divinity must forcibly condense their energy body into a physical entity, using divine force to stabilize the physical body form, only then allowing the offspring to possess a material physical body and soul. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The entire gestation process continuously consumes the divinity's origin divine force, placing an immense burden on the mother. Ordinary low-ranking divinities simply cannot sustain it, and only high-ranking divinities with deep foundations have the qualifications and strength to conceive offspring. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The child gradually grew up, he was not a divinity, and his physical body remained a mortal entity. The God realm is originally a high-dimensional space constructed from the interweaving of energy and mental force, suspended within the universe void realm. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Living here for a long time with a mortal body would not only prevent him from cultivating but would also hinder his growth, so you sent him into the Douluo world to cultivate and grow. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your son, carrying the six-winged angel spirit, descended upon the Douluo Continent via divine descent, appearing within the territory of Spirit Hall, triggering phenomena in heaven and earth, and was revered by the people of Spirit Hall as the saint sent from heaven. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The titled Douluo and elders of the Elders Hall protected him with all their might and taught him with great care. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Afterward, you left him in the care of Qian Xunji. Once everything was arranged, you settled down to continue your closed-door cultivation and refine your own cultivation base. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Qian Xunji suddenly found you, her expression grave as she raised her hand to unfold a water mirror, which reflected the scene of the Douluo Continent in the lower realm. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. She pointed her fingertip at a tall, straight-backed youth in the mirror, her tone carrying a hint of surprise and suspicion. Look at this child. I don't know why, but I always feel familiar when I look at his brows and aura. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the water mirror, a lively academy exchange meeting was being held. Amidst the crowd, your son stood tall, the holy aura of his six-winged angel spirit faintly radiating outward, making him exceptionally eye-catching. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Not far away, a black-haired youth was mixed in the crowd. His face was plain and unremarkable, appearing completely inconspicuous, yet his deep eyes were constantly, if subtly, sizing up your son, his gaze unfathomable. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This is Tang San. Your gaze was calm as you identified the youth in one sentence. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your mental force has already reached the pinnacle, allowing you to easily penetrate this tender skin and glimpse the mature and world-weary soul beneath that has experienced reincarnation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Tang San still hadn't managed to break his old habits. He always had a way of seeking death for those he had conflicts with or disliked, his eyes filled with killing intent. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. He is actually not dead yet. Qian Xunji was astonished upon hearing this, not expecting that Tang San, who had long since died, would appear again. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After a brief shock, she instantly understood, her tone carrying a mix of realization and anger. It was the Asura god who acted to resurrect him. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. So many years have passed, and the Asura god still hasn't changed his mind. Qian Xunji frowned, full of confusion. There are countless prodigies in the world, and there are plenty whose talent far exceeds Tang San's. Why must the Asura god insist on choosing him as his successor? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Facing Qian Xunji's confusion, you did not answer. Your gaze had already moved past Tang San, landing on a youth on the other side of the crowd. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. That youth had long, clear, light blue hair, a handsome and delicate face, and a pair of lively, clear eyes that seemed to hold a sea of stars, his aura pure and resilient. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Huo Yuhao, the newly born son of luck of this Douluo plain. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You could clearly see the golden luck, vast as a river and sea, surrounding Huo Yuhao. It was the favoritism of the laws of heaven and earth, the ultimate condensation of the plane's luck. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Although the reborn Tang San could not see this luck, he was instinctively attracted by the special aura on Huo Yuhao, deliberately slowing his pace and wanting to take the initiative to step forward and befriend him. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. But what you cared more about was the remnant soul deep within Huo Yuhao's soul, carrying an endless aura of darkness and destruction. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The necromancy holy law god, Electrolux. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After his revenge had almost slaughtered all of humanity in the divine throne world, the necromancy holy law god now had most of the baleful chi and killing intent on him restrained, his temperament having become much more peaceful. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At this moment, he was slumbering quietly deep within Huo Yuhao's soul. Even though his soul was broken and his power was less than 1/10 of its former self, leaving him in an extremely weak state, he had not laid a hand on Huo Yuhao's physical body or soul due to his own decline. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. With a thought, you sent a clone to the lower realm, which quietly appeared, passing through the layers of the crowd and coming straight to the oblivious Huo Yuhao. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The clone needed no words, it merely used a wisp of condensed divine thought to gently touch Huo Yuhao's sea of consciousness, precisely awakening the long slumbering Electrolux. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The sudden soul vibration made Huo Yuhao snap back to his senses. He looked around in confusion, his clear eyes filled with shock and bewilderment, completely unable to understand what had happened. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Electrolux awoke from his silence. The consciousness formed by his remnant soul swept over the clone before him. With just one glance, undisguised disgust quickly gathered in those eyes covered in deathly stillness and vicissitudes. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. A deep, hoarse voice carried a hint of mockery. Deep within your soul, countless sins and iniquities churn, an aura of darkness so thick it cannot be dissolved, yet despite being so filthy, you actually possess the power of a divinity. Has the world today already rotted to such a degree? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Although Electrolux himself had once almost destroyed a world, the current Electrolux had awakened. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You calmly met his gaze, your tone calm and waveless. I am far from being even 1/10,000th of your excellency. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The truth was just so. Compared to Electrolux's track record back then of nearly annihilating a world and rivers of blood, you still left these people's lives intact, allowed them to die of old age, and their souls were not tortured, you merely occasionally extracted a little interest from them. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Hearing this, Electrolux was silent for a long time, then let out a long sigh. I had already died long ago. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You nodded slightly and asked softly, then, if everything could start over, would you still choose to embark on that path of revenge? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Electrolux fell into a long silence. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The answer was already deep within his soul. There was no need for thought, no need for hesitation. That would certainly be yes. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The blood feud and bone-chilling betrayal of the past had long since turned into a brand in the deepest part of his soul. Even if he were to do it 1,000 or 10,000 times over, he would still choose revenge, never wavering in the slightest. Close black lens bracket. Chapter 120. Have the gods become this unhinged? Electrolux could warn Huo Yuhao, who bore a deep blood feud, with the demeanor of someone who had been there. A person must not be blinded by hatred. If you do something irreversible, you will regret it for the rest of your life. He sincerely hoped that Huo Yuhao could break through the shackles of hatred and preserve the purity remaining in his heart. He was a good teacher. Yet, this advice for others could ultimately not be applied to himself. Electrolux was the child of light, a genius of old whose talent was so exceptional it was unprecedented. From the moment of his birth, his path had been smooth sailing, living in a paradise built of flowers and glory. The first time he fell in his life, it was into an abyss of no return. His beloved betrayed him heartlessly, his parents and friends all died tragically, his once warm home turned into scorched earth, his former glory was covered in dust, and he himself was severely wounded, struggling on the verge of death. With his innate pride and his heart-wrenching experiences, how could he easily let go of this bone-deep hatred? For him, the trace of regret in his heart was not about regretting the revenge, but that in his rage back then, he had been too ruthless, almost slaughtering the entire human race. You were confused and puzzled, unable to help but ask, Electrolux, I am truly curious. You once nearly destroyed an entire world with your own hands, your hands stained with endless blood, yet now you think that I, a god who is revered by millions and protects a region, am too dark. Isn't this backwards? According to the common logic of the world, you should be the evil party with blood-stained hands, living in darkness, shouldn't you? Upon hearing this, Electrolux's eyes were full of astonishment and confusion. He could clearly perceive that when you said these words, your attitude was open and honest, you genuinely believed from the bottom of your heart that you were a kind, benevolent God with great righteousness, not intentionally pretending. At this moment, this former child of light, who had experienced life and death and seen through human nature, fell completely into confusion and astonishment, for a time not knowing what to say. You compared yourself to that group of colleagues in the God realm, and in your heart, you were more and more certain that you were absolutely kind. The God of goodness, who holds the divinity of goodness, should have been compassionate and protected all living beings, but instead went to make a bet with the God of evil, using the love of a couple as a wager, and then was moved by their deep affection, completing the God position legacy. They took their respective divine artifacts and went to the mortal world for reincarnation, loving and killing each other. The mess they left behind required their successors to go down to the lower realm to clean it up time and time again, and those innocent, passers-by, who were affected and died tragically were, in the eyes of the divinities, just unlucky and destined to die. The God of destruction was single-mindedly devoted to expanding the God realm's boundaries, strengthening the overall power of the God realm, and protecting the living beings of the God realm, yet he was suppressed by the Asura God at every turn. Even his own wife, the goddess of life, stood on the opposite side of him, leaving him alone and unable to move a step. The Asura God, who held the power of law enforcement and the highest law enforcement authority in the God realm, acted with extreme double standards. Facing the recklessness and violations of other divinities, he always turned a blind eye, but once the one who made a mistake was a low-level God official with no background and low status, he would immediately put on an impartial posture, strike hard, and never tolerate it. Even when the God of goodness and the God of evil discussed their plans right in front of him, the Asura God turned a blind eye and a deaf ear from beginning to end. The Rakshasa God was a pure evil God, whose core condition for opening the God's trial was to devour the souls of living beings, and the path of cultivation was full of blood. Not only would it completely twist the inheritor's mind, but it also required inciting conflicts on the continent and starting wars. You compared your own actions with theirs one by one, and your confidence grew stronger. You imparted knowledge of cultivation, guided believers to cultivate and advance, protected the living beings of a region so they could live and work in peace, and were even willing to expend effort to help devout believers break through to level 100 and become gods. Acting like this, looking at the entire God realm, it could simply be considered the ultimate good. Isn't it normal for me to take some interest as well? You spoke out what was in your heart, and after Electrolux heard your words, the aura around him became increasingly silent, and he did not speak for a long time. Have the gods of today become this unhinged? He had lived for a long time, experiencing both darkness and light, and even in the world he was from, he had never heard of using such a childish and absurd method as testing the love of a mortal couple to select a successor for a god position. Now that Electrolux had turned over a new leaf and was devoted to kindness, his eyes were full of disbelief. He decided to witness for himself what this god realm looked like. For him, a drifting remnant soul, his days were numbered, and he did not mind doing some good deeds before his soul completely dissipated. You took Electrolux and stepped into the god realm, which countless living beings yearned for. The first stop of this trip was the temple of the current god of goodness, Lai Yan, and the god of evil, Bibi Dong. The two of them had only inherited their god positions for a short time, and their foundation was not yet stable when the previous god of goodness and god of evil irresponsibly abandoned everything, took the two great divine artifacts, and ran away, throwing themselves into the reincarnation of the mortal world, leaving only the two of them to take over a mess. Having just become gods, plus the lack of divine artifacts, their combat power was greatly discounted, and they were simply unable to fulfill the duties of a god king. What was even more outrageous was that they also had to go to the lower realm from time to time to clean up the mess for those two predecessors who were indulging in reincarnation and having fun. And those two former divinities who took their divine artifacts for reincarnation were simply two walking weapons of mass destruction in the world. The power of the divine artifacts was enough to shake a world, and coupled with their penchant for betting, testing, and watching the show, over the years, they had wreaked havoc on countless small worlds, causing countless living beings to suffer for no reason. After seeing this pair of unhinged man and woman, Electrolux's mind suddenly flashed with the image of flow, and an absurd thought arose in his heart. The flow of the past seemed to count as a normal person. But this thought had just risen before he quickly extinguished it. Subsequently, you took Electrolux to continue traveling through the god realm, seeing all kinds of gods along the way, and everything he saw and heard reordered his cognition. He gradually discovered an absurd pattern. In this god realm, the more powerful the deity, the more unhinged their actions were. Conversely, those ordinary and weak god officials were relatively normal, but they had no say, and would even be affected by these unhinged people. For example, a powerful evil god wanted to collect souls and evil thoughts, tempting people to fall, and evil people wreaked havoc in the human world, but the Asura god ignored it. Yet, when a god official wanted to intervene to save their hometown, they were immediately killed on the spot, with the charge of interfering with the lower realm. The Douluo peerless god of love turned dark and wreaked havoc in the lower realm. Tang the god king could not take action, and then turned around to threaten Juzi, while simultaneously striking hard at his son-in-law Huo Yuhao. The entire god realm did not distinguish between good and evil. The strong did whatever they wanted, and god officials were at the bottom, with a status similar to ordinary people in the lower realm.